Hello, everyone, and welcome to Evolve Yourself TV. I am Agni James, and today I'm actually going to start by turning off the sound on my phone because that was pretty annoying. Sorry about that, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. But today what we're actually going to be doing is a guided meditation because that's what we do here. We come here and we meditate, and we also discuss philosophy at times. We discuss mental health issues, which are super important, and it's just really it's of paramount significance that we address these issues and bring them to light because a lot of people don't like to discuss what's going on within their internal mental state. So we discuss that. So how's everyone doing tonight? How's life for everyone? I hope everyone is having a day filled with abundance and joy and warmth. I can tell you a little bit about my day. I got up and I worked out, and excuse me. While I was working out, it was kind of a weird day because what I typically do is I work out and then I do day slash swing trading as well while I'm working out, and then I was also working on my channel, trying to improve the Evolve Yourself channel, and then I was doing a few other things as well. So I kind of was like just jumping back and forth. So it was weird. It's weird when you do like when you're doing push-ups and then you're like at the computer like trying to figure out why something's not working in Streamlabs chatbot, and then you're doing making some day trades and swing trades and stuff like that. So basically it was one of those days. It was kind of like a chaotic a mess to begin with, but it quieted down. It quieted down then later on, and then I got through everything. I got everything done I needed to get done. I had to make like 100 phone calls and coordinate a bunch of stuff. But then it's like there's always that hustle and bustle, and then things calm down. It's like after the storm is done, right? And then people, or then just life just kind of settles down. So that's what happened. And then I actually got really tired later in the day, and it was actually interesting. I was able to take a nap, which is something that I don't do very often, because I'm not like, I don't know, 6 years old. but I got a nap in, which was great. It felt good. It felt refreshing just to relax. Hey, Swiss R is here, hosted my stream. Thank you so much, brother. Good to see you, Swiss. Let me give you a shout out to your other account as well. You're the man. You're one of the streamers in the fitness and health community that has the two names, that has two different channels. One's not good enough for you. One channel is not good enough for you. You need two. So let's give a shout out to both of your accounts. And look at that. Look at that. I got my Stream Elements auto shout outs going again. All right. That's definitely something that makes me happy. My auto shout outs have not been working for the last few days. And I was like, why are my auto shout outs not working? What's going on here? And then I was going through all the settings today, and apparently the Stream Elements bot was banned. The Stream Elements bot was banned. So it must have been a bad bot because it did something wrong. Oh, hey, Evelyn Yoga, you're here. You're going to be lurking. Well, thank you so much for the lurk. Much appreciated. But anyways, yes, Swiss is just an amazing fitness and health streamer here. Well, he does all sorts of stuff. He does a lot of amazing travel streams, which are the things that I've been seeing a lot from him lately, where he walks around Switzerland and has these beautiful scenic landscapes, views, and is able just to get these amazing picturesque scenes and share them with us, And that's one of the coolest things that I found about Twitch, like the ability of people to actually show you where they live, show you what their world is all about, what their environment is like, right? Because everyone lives in a totally different environment, right? I live in Chicago, Illinois, where it's a lot of concrete and plastic and pollution, and a lot of good food, and then the highest murder rate in the country, right? But then there's other people that live in like jungles, right? I mean, can you imagine like living in an actual jungle? Like that would be intense, right? That would be an intense place to exist, and then there's people that like live in like 6 feet of snow. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not always, right? Not always. I mean, there's people that that have to deal with crazy with the elements, to a much stronger degree than I do. I mean, I don't know. I'm okay with it though. They call Chicago a bipolar town. We have very very strong extremes in temperature. Like today, for instance, it was 95 degrees Fahrenheit where I live. But then, in 2019, it was negative 31 degrees Fahrenheit for the polar vortex that swept through here. Yeah, Chi-Town. Oh, the Chi-Town jungle, right? Yeah, and Swiss, I got to see what you were showing earlier, man. You were showing a Chicago. I think where you were showing a Chicago thing right on your Discord, right? I got to check that out earlier. That was pretty cool. So yeah, definitely check. Everyone should definitely check out Swiss R's stream, and just learn something. Learn something about Switzerland. I didn't. I really appreciate the architecture of all the older buildings and whatnot. He was showing a church from 1633 one day, and it was really really cool. And Evelyn Yoga is a phenomenal streamer here in the Twitch fitness and health community as well. She does primarily yoga, but she also does some like HIIT Pilates type stuff and other stretching and working out stuff as well. Super nice person, really kind, wonderful human being. Definitely check her out and give her a follow. Dropping a follow doesn't cost you anything, and it helps out the streamer tremendously. So yeah, Chi-Town Jungle. Chi-Town Jungle. It is a jungle. It is a jungle out there, right? And sometimes we don't even realize it. Sometimes we don't even we just grow so accustomed to our environment, right? Like if you live in the same type of environment, your whole life, right? You're gonna be that's what you're gonna be used to. That's what you're gonna experience. That's gonna be your existence, right? That's what you're gonna feel, and that's where you're gonna be. And that's what you're going to think the rest of the world is like, unless you've traveled out of there or heard stories about other places. I mean, they used to say the streets of quote unquote America were paved with gold, right? And what bullshit is that, right? It's we're lucky if we're not slipping on feces in the road, right? But yeah, that's just something to consider, right? Everyone's got their own environments, and it's important to get exposure to the other environments. And also another cool reason why it's good to get exposure to other environments is because when you go into another environment, you tend to understand the people better that live in that environment, right? Because you can learn a lot about people from their architecture, right? Because the architecture is simply an external manifestation of whatever's going on within the internal psyche of the population. So like if the internal if the zeitgeist of the times is one in which a minimalistic theme has arisen in throughout society, then you're going to see that expressed in architecture, and not just architecture, but in the museums and whatnot in the environment. But then if you have and then there's other times where you have these really gaudy facades of built at the front of buildings and everything like that, and all this form, and where form is more valued even than function at times, and that always blows my mind. It's like so it's like when you walk into a house and like you see like there's like a room, like there'll be like a front room, and you go to sit down on the couch, and the person's like, no, don't go in their room, don't sit on the couch, that's just for show. And you're like what the fuck? I want to like take a seat on the couch. What do you mean it's just for show? You have a whole room that's just that people can't enter, and they're like, yeah, like I had a couple friends whose parents had rooms like that. Like right when you walk into their house, it's like you take off your shoes, you're like ready just to like sit down on the couch and like hang out, and like they're like, nope, you got to go in a different room. This room is not allowed for people. It's just for show, and that just blows my mind. Like when something doesn't have a purpose, it just it always throws me for a loop. It always throws me for a loop. But then again, one could argue that there is a purpose. there is a purpose to those rooms, to those front rooms that you're not allowed to go into because you could, dirty them up or whatnot, and everything is perfectly straight and perfectly clean and whatnot. And that purpose is aesthetic beauty, right? So you could definitely make that argument. You could argue that aesthetics, which is actually a branch of philosophy, um, is um, is the actual purpose in itself. And I've heard people make that argument before, and it does make sense to some level, right? On some level, right? Like if you're looking at a beautiful piece of artwork in a museum, it seems to make more sense though to me than if you're just like in someone's front room in their home. Like if someone's got a home and they have a whole room devoted to just not existing in that room. Another interesting thing about it is I've noticed that people who do have those really nice, showy front rooms, a lot of times have like disaster rooms. Then like back in the back recesses of their homes. Like my good buddy, one of my literal best friend growing up. He had one of those rooms that you couldn't go into when you walk in the house because it was just for show. But then when you'd go up to the second floor and you'd start going in some of the back bedrooms, they were just like stacked with like hoarder-esque type stuff, right? Like just boxes upon boxes of just junk and garbage and like ab flexes and products that were bought off infomercials that will never be used or maybe were used like one time and then discarded. And so yeah, it's kind of an interesting contrast, right? If you think about it, you have people that they try to put on a good show for you, right? They try to make it sound like everything's going all right and like everything's going great, and you walk into their home and everything looks clean and in order. But then in the back recesses, all it's just filth. You have hoarding. You have stacks of newspapers to the ceiling. You got dirt everywhere. I mean, it's interesting, and that kind of circles back to mental health, right? And when people put on a facade, right? It's kind of like that like those houses, right? It's kind of like those houses, right? People put on a false image. It's like you ask them how they're doing. It's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? And it's like someone you love, you care about. And they say, oh, I'm fine, right? And then it's like maybe they're not fine, right? Maybe they're just saying that. And people do that a lot of times, right? They say they're feeling fine when they're not feeling fine. And the reasons for that, are numerous. I mean, one could argue that, maybe they just don't want to burden the other person, and they feel like they're going to be a burden on that person if they actually start telling how they truly feel. But at the same time, if the person cares about them, they should, you would think they would want to actually hear how the person truly feels, as opposed to how the person is, what image that person is trying to present, right? Because a lot of times, someone will say they're fine, and then the next day you hear about them, you know, breaking down or having, a major mental health crisis or whatnot, So, and when you ask those people, well, why did you not tell anyone about this? Well, how come you didn't seek help? Most of the time, they say they didn't want to. They didn't want to bother anyone with their issues. They didn't want to put that on anyone else, or they didn't think it would be effective to communicate that with others. But it's worth a shot. I mean, we all go through stuff in our lives, right? We all have difficult traumas that we have had to go through and work through, right? Life's not easy. No one gets a free ride. No one ever gets to just skate through life without anything terrible happening to them. Eventually things catch up with people. Bad things do happen. And when those things happen, we need to be able to express our feelings, to those who we love and those who we care about what we've undergone. Yeah, there's I've talked about this before. There's a stigma in at least in Western culture about men, about like men expressing their feelings, right? It's like not considered manly, to express your feelings or whatnot if you're a dude. And I've always thought that's complete fucking bullshit. I've thought that notion is just insane. I think that basically creates a lot of mental health issues and neuroses, right? Because dudes are basically societally, conditioned to not express their emotions, to not express how they feel. They got to keep everything bottled in, even if they're like, sensitive human beings, right? So that's something that is good to talk about and bring to light as well. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Just figured I'd talk about some mental health stuff, talk about the facades of houses, see what else we could discuss, and move on to the meditation after that. Sometimes we get we get a lot of chat before the meditations, and sometimes we don't have a ton. It's just how it goes. It's just how it goes here. Yeah, that's how life is, though, right? I mean, sometimes you go out, with your best friend, and you think you're going to be doing a lot of talking, and there's not a lot of talking, right? And sometimes there is, right? Hey, JT Farms is here. Our channel shaman is here, and I always introduce her like that because that's what she does. She keeps all the bad spirits out and the good spirits in. She's definitely a kind, loving, compassionate human being and a phenomenal poet. And I love her. I love her unconditionally. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. How are you doing today, JT? JT Farms, what's new? What's new in your existence? I'm putting you on the spot again. I always feel that's like one of my responsibilities in life. I need to put you on the spot. I need to get that spotlight on you because you tend to like go away from the light. You're always like, light. I don't want to be anywhere near that, right? And then you stay indoors. You stay indoors. You stay away from the spotlight. But then you break out on social media sometimes, like your readings on Facebook and stuff like that, right? Your poetry readings, and that's always cool. But yeah, I hope you're having a day filled with love and abundance. I hope everything's going good for you today. You're doing really good. Had an early morning, but pretty easy evening. Yeah. And that's how it was for me too. That's kind of how it was for me too. I was actually saying I got to take a nap today. It was wild. It was a weird feeling. It kind of throws you off. If you're not used to doing something like that. I know in some cultures it's like, you take the siesta. You take that time to just take like an hour or two. After like lunch to just relax and just maybe get a couple hours of sleep in. But I'm not really used to that. But when I can get that in, it's always a neat feeling. It's always interesting. It always but it kind of you can get thrown off a little bit off your schedule when you do that. You wish you could take naps, your mind won't allow it. Well, let me tell what you should be doing. Remember, that's what I was talking about yesterday. Whenever someone prefaces like something with like, you know what you should be doing, it's like, dude, that person has no concept of reality, because unless we're dealing with like a 5-year-old kid, who obviously doesn't know what they should be doing, or maybe they do and we don't know what we're doing. But like typically, if someone comes out and prefaces their statement with, "You should be doing X" or "You should be doing Y," right? It's like, dude, that person has no concept of what reality is. They don't, and usually they don't even know what they should be doing, and that's why they like to try to project and tell you what you should be doing, right? And when that's the case, usually it's just going to be bullshit that's coming out of their mouth. It's just going to be like them saying, "Oh, you should be, going out and doing X, and you need to do X." And a lot of times you'll look at them and you'll do a little self-reflection. You'll see that they're actually the ones that want to be doing X. They're actually the ones that should be doing X, and they're precisely the ones that aren't doing X. It's so weird how the ego mind and consciousness just likes to project everything outward onto everyone else and to the world. It's just a really weird, bizarre situation that we're in. JT, you say, yes, sir. Tell me, please, your imparted wisdom. Yeah, right. When someone's like, yeah, you should do this, right? It's always so ridiculous, right? And then people have like these overzealous notions of pushing ideas on others, right? And that's exactly what you don't want to hear. And you would even think, and you even can think about it from a marketing standpoint too. Like marketers know, like, the subtle ways to try to like sneak things in under the conscious radar, right? So they such that people will actually buy their products. They don't try to like push things in a way that's like gonna be counterproductive. They've done their science, they've done their psychology. Marketing is basically human psychology, pushed in this to the max to try to get people to buy their products, and that's just how it goes. But yeah, like marketers don't do that. You ever have like that family member that's like real religious that always comes up to you and is just like on your case about not accepting Christ in your life, or not accepting whatever. I was gonna say the Buddha, but like usually Buddhists aren't like that. I haven't met very many pushy Buddhists, but like you'll see it across the board with most religions, and not just religions but political ideologies, right? I mean, man, if you possess a different political view than someone, they can get real pushy real quick, and it's crazy. It's crazy. And what I always talk about, and the thing that I really, if I'm going to drive home one point in all of my streams and all of my meditations, prior to all my meditations, and even during the meditation, I bring the same point up, is that you can feel love for someone regardless of what belief set they hold, right? So everyone has their own belief set. They have, you take all the beliefs that an individual has, and the totality of those beliefs, it comprises their belief set. Okay, now your belief set changes as from day to day even, but as you get older, right? Your belief set when you're 5 is very different than the belief set you have when you're 10, and when you're 10 it's very different than when you're 15, right? So your belief set's a malleable thing, right? You're constantly switching out new beliefs; they're changing. So just try to keep that in mind when if you're trying to, like, push an idea on someone else, right? Because it's like, I mean, you might have believed what they believed 5 years prior, and you might believe what they believe 5 years later. I mean, so it's never productive. And then also when you try to push beliefs, people typically become defensive, and you're not going to get your point across anyway, right? We've been discussing the old paradigmatic example. This is the abortion debate, where one Sally says abortion is wrong, and Shannon says abortion is not wrong, right? So you have X and not X, right? And when those two people get together to try to have a discussion about abortion, I mean, it's never going to be the case. It's almost never going to be the case that like one person's going to be like, you know what? You're totally right. You're totally right. This whole time I've been thinking about the abortion concept completely wrong, and yeah, in reality I should actually completely switch my view. That just doesn't happen. I mean, there's a few examples of it happening in rare instances where someone has a complete like paradigm shift in their thinking, but for the most part it's counterproductive. So you got to think, how do you want to use your energy in life? Do you want to be one of those annoying people that tries to push their views on others, or do you want to be someone who just is willing to hear someone out, even if their view is contrary to what you believe, right? All right, JT, you say, yeah, I try to keep my you should do's to myself, but it slips out from time to time. I catch myself most times, so all are safe from my sage advice. Yeah, but you do have good advice, and you're the channel shaman. So I don't know. You might be in a special space in which you can be a little more vocal about it. I'd actually like to hear you a little bit more vocal in this world. But I don't know if Mark would want to hear you more vocal though. How is it with you and Mark these days? What's going on with you two? He probably thinks you're vocal enough, right? At times, right? I could picture you when you get riled up being like pretty vocal. When you're going through high point in your life or whatnot. Um, you're good, awesome, great. It's always so good to hear that. When there's a couple that's like strong and resilient and they have their minor skirmishes, but like they at the end of the day they still love and care about each other, and that's like the kind of thing that is super important. Oh yeah, getting back to what I was saying. Yeah, be true to the other person. Love that unconditional love within that person, right? And if you do that, if you love that person unconditionally, then it doesn't matter what belief set they hold, And that's really the crux of of what I like to argue for, what I like to espouse. And I don't come off too pushy. At least if I do, like, maybe that's just a character flaw, and I'm working on it. But for the most part, yeah, it's like, it's. I mean, we can still love one another and have different and hold different views, right? Um, let's see, JT, you say, no, I don't. I rant on the page. Yeah, we have major shit, but we are balanced, and you two are. You absolutely are. You balance each other out so well, you and Mark. It's really cool. It's really a great balancing act. I'm a Libra, right? So I'm all about balance, and you too. From the stories I've heard, you guys you're always balancing each other out pretty well, and you need that, right? You need checks and balances in your life, and relationships are very much about checks and balances, right? Like if you ever meet a couple that's like that's very like super similar, a lot of times they get in trouble because they're so similar, right? Because there's no one to check them. There's no checks and balances on behaviors and on decisions, right? It's like one person will get the idea like, hey, let's, like, jump on a plane and fly to South Africa, tomorrow. And the other person will be like, yeah, that's great, and they'll ride the enthusiasm, and then they'll do it, and then they're like, oh shit, we don't have money for the trip, and we're like now in South Africa, and like we're like, gotta manage, barely manage to get by, now we have to, like, how are we gonna get home and things like that, right? And you get like weird things, but then a lot of times you'll have like one person in a relationship who's very spontaneous and one person who's very like deliberate, and that there will be like a struggle, there will be like that tension between the two people. It's always weird, like trying to like do my hands, in the mirror, like trying to get him lined up right. Not in the mirror, but in the reflection on the screen. Um, let's see. JT, you say you're not very vocal in arguments, but he feels your energy, and so that is much more powerful. And that is crucial. And I think that's actually that can be even more powerful than uh, you know than just verbal communication, right? If you can feel someone's energy, if you're really in that tune with the other person, such that you feel where they're coming from, you feel their energy, you feel their whatever vibes they're giving off, then that kind of transcends words, right? Because if you think, what are words? Words are simply representations of an idea, right? It's a symbolic language, right? It's basically, it's symbols standing for meaning, right? So it's not actual the reality of the situation. It's just a way to try to represent an idea, right? So it's like if I have a given idea in my mind, and I want to convey that idea to another individual, I'll have to use words, and I'll have to do my best to try to articulate whatever I want to say in a manner that is conducive to them being receptive to that, to whatever message I'm trying to convey. But think about all the errors, and think about all the mistakes that happen, in communication and with miscommunication. It happens all the time. It's crazy, right? You'll have people communicating, and they don't even know, they're just talking past each other because they don't, maybe they don't accept the same background assumptions, right? Because think about that, right? If you have two people and they hold different background assumptions about whatever issue you're addressing, and then you're trying to talk to them about it, and you don't actually address those background assumptions, then they're not going to understand what you're talking about. They're gonna think that you're coming from a different place. But if you can feel their energy, if you can feel their love and whatever's going on in their heart, I mean, then all of a sudden that's a game changer. Things are different then. Let's see, JT, you say, Mark and you have totally different philosophies of life, but the challenge of it allows both of you to grow. Yeah, absolutely. And that is it. And you do have very different philosophies of life from everything I've heard. Um, but yeah, growth is possible, right? If you had the same, and you know what? I think you bring up a really good point, right? And this kind of feeds back into what I was saying earlier in the stream. If you have two people and they're the same, maybe there's not as much room for growth, right? But if you have two people who are constantly pushing on one another, and there's that tension that exists, then you're going to get better ideas and better more refined ideas that can come from that, and that's important. That's something a lot of people don't think about. Like, there's a lot of good that can come from tension, and I'm not talking about, like, angry tension, or like, the strife, like crazy level strife. Of course that's gonna end a relationship, but like, just some level of tension, in a relationship can be a healthy thing, and I think that's something that definitely needs to be thought about and understood in our world these days. Because a lot of times people think, oh, if we have these different ideas, we have different ideas, therefore we're never gonna be able to exist together, but it's not about the idea at the end of the day. And I talk about this too quite a bit. The conscious level awareness, like our whole consciousness, our whole ego consciousness, is not the foundational level. There's this weird notion that came to be, where people started believing that they are a sum total of their thoughts, that they are their belief set, and that is their identity, that is their deeper kind, that is their foundational essence. So you take all the beliefs that the person has in consciousness, you can couple that with first person perspective and self-reflective consciousness, and even psychological continuity, which is the temporal sequencing of events in chronological order throughout your life, right? And you say that all those things comprise who I am at the most foundational level, and that's just not the case, because who we are foundationally are, first of all, our beliefs change over time, which would mean that every moment we're constantly a different person. And like, people will say that in a sense, and in a sense, yeah, it does make sense, but in the bigger picture, it doesn't make sense to say that, like, I am a totally different person than I was, like, a split second ago, right? That seems like an incoherent argument, or at least, like, if you're gonna espouse that view, that you're gonna be on untenable ground. I mean, people are gonna be able to rip that argument down from you pretty quick. So for the most, and what I personally believe, my metaphysics about reality is simply that our foundational essence is in our heart chakra, is in our core, is in the place of perfect love, and that is what our foundational essence, where it resides. And if I'm correct, and it's not just me, it's like a lot of major religions, a lot of major philosophies, a lot of ideologies, like hold the same notion, right? That our foundational essence is deeper than conscious level awareness, right? And if that is correct, then we should never really get mad at someone for holding a different. We should never feel angry at someone for holding different beliefs than we do, because that's not their foundational level. That's just all like icing on the cake, right? It's not the actual substance of the cake. It's not the foundational component of the person. So I always argue that we should. There we go. Look at that. I just did exactly what I said. I hate when other people do, and that's a good example, though, right? That's a perfect example, right? To show how as human beings we slip up, right? And we don't act in ways always that are in alignment with our values. We have our values here, and then we want to live in accordance with our values. And when we don't live in accordance with our values, we have conflict, right? We have conflict that comes from that, and so we want to live in accordance with our values. My value is that I don't believe I think it's counterproductive when people are telling other people what they should or shouldn't do, and now I just go ahead and say what I think people should do, right? So nice little paradoxical loop from the beginning of the of the stream. But well, we can overlook that one for now, right? I'm not perfect in this dualistic framework that we currently inhabit. All right, let's see, JT, you're saying it's about finding truth of love that will bypass all ego. Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the foundational message of the channel. To not get stuck up in the conscious level belief system discrepancies between you and another person, but instead to actually feel the internal love that you have for the other person, and to awaken that love within them. And if you can do that, if you can connect with them at that level, then all the conscious level conflict is gonna resolve itself, or at least is gonna be it's gonna be enervated, right? It's gonna decrease, it's gonna lessen, right? Because there's not gonna be as much conflict, because at the end of the day you love the person, just JT, just like you love, at the end of the day you love Mark. And you'll have arguments, you'll have issues that will result, in your life. But at the end of the day, he feels you and you feel him, and you know where each other, who the other person is, right? Foundationally, at the core, and that's why you're together. That's why you're together, and that's a beautiful thing. It really is. It's really a beautiful thing when people can bypass the ego consciousness and connect with someone in a place of love, in that at their deeper kind, at their foundation, right? Um, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. JT, you say every day is a work in progress. If we are not working on ourselves and internal relationship, then for me, the point is lost. We got to. I mean, that's that. Well, we got to, right? That I feel, according to my metaphysics, that yeah, we have to evolve ourselves, right? That's literally the name of the channel for a reason. Um, we want to try to improve ourselves. I mean, I'm here to try to improve myself, and one of the ways that I found to do that is to be as open and honest as possible with the world. And I feel like if I'm able to be open and honest, then maybe someone else will feel a little more easy about being open and honest with others, because that's genuineness and authenticity are crucial to our being. If we're not genuine and authentic, we always feel like we're holding something back. We always feel like some internal conflict, and just we have that state of cognitive dissonance that arises, because we're not living in accordance with our values. But if we value authenticity and genuineness, and we live in accordance with those values by being honest and open to the people in our world, and sharing whatever is going on in our hearts with them, then we're at least doing everything we can. We're doing everything in our power to try to have a good relationship with that person, and that's all we can hope for. That's all we can really hope for in this illusory dualistic framework that we currently inhabit. When we're from the context of eternity, though, it's a different story. From the context of eternity, we are always in a state of bliss. We are always in a state of perfect love. We're always in a state of perfect peace, because we stem from the source of creation, and we flow from that source of creation. And now, but while we're residing within this illusory dualistic framework, it seems like it's not the case, right? It seems like everyone's divided and separated and fighting with one another, and that the whole world is just about arguing and trying to knock people down and make more money and whatever. But that's just not the reality of existence. It's simply a magician's sleight of hand. This whole space-time paradigm that we're currently believe is reality, right? And I can go into my arguments again for that. I always discuss them. I mean, Kant, hundreds of years ago during the Enlightenment, drew the distinction between the phenomenal world, which is the world of sensory experience, and the noumenal world, which is the world of things as they actually are in themselves. And he showed that other philosophers too have shown that our phenomenal world is completely limited. Is completely limited, right? We're not. It's incomplete. It's giving us a very incomplete view of what is occurring in reality, because of the small subset of data that we're able to actually take in through our five senses, and use that small subset of data to actually extrapolate and form like a vision of what reality is. And it's ludicrous. It's totally ludicrous to think that that's what we have to do. But that is what we have to do to get by, because otherwise we don't eat, and we don't have shelter, we don't have clothing, right? So as long as this illusory dualistic framework exists, we're kind of stuck to try to take this small amount of data and extrapolate and try to see the world through this like projector lens that we our mind, it's how our mind operates. We project the world through our eyes, through our vision, right? And we never get to Kant's noumenal realm, right? The way things actually are in themselves. Now, I would argue, and by the way, those of you who are unfamiliar with philosophy or with academic philosophy, when someone says, now I would argue, they're not actually saying like, this is going to be a rough and tumble argument. This is actually like something that's, we're going to get into this debate about, and it's going to be like, rude, and we're going to try to fight to win. That's not what philosophers mean when they say, they would argue. They simply mean the point that they're trying to articulate, the point that they're espousing. All right, that's what they mean when they say argue. So when I say argue, I'm not referring to the colloquial sense of argue. But yeah, what I would argue is that we're simply just we're just human beings, and we're doing the best we can, given the circumstance of having our perceptual lenses all clouded up, right? Our perceptual lenses have gotten muddied, and we're just kind of like walking around, like trying to like navigate in the world and trying to see things, but we don't see things clearly because we don't have A, the totality of data that exists in the world, and B, we don't have the processing power to process all that information. Even if we did have all that data, right? The brain's not going to cut it. It's not going to allow us to process an infinite amount of data, or finite if you believe in this dualistic framework. So we just kind of basically do what we can, and we strive to do our best, right? Because that's all we can do. That's all we can do. JT Farms, you say it's fucking hard, but you're doing it. Yeah, you and Mark are doing it, and you're able to, and that's why your relationship has lasted as long as it has. Because both of you you're on the same page about what's important, about what's really important, and that is that foundational love. And whatever is at your foundation is going to influence every facet of your being, and that's another reason why it's important to look through your foundational premises and reevaluate them at times, right? Every few years, or not, even less than that, like every depending on how much time I have. If I have a lot of time, I'll do this quite frequently. I'll kind of sift through my conscious level awareness and kind of think about what beliefs I hold at any given moment, and I'll think, well, do my beliefs make sense? Does my belief set first of all, is it consistent, right? Because if you have two beliefs, like if you have X and not X in your mind at the same time, then that's going to create a tremendous amount of internal cognitive dissonance and turbulence in your mind, right? Because it's just not. We evolved to be creatures that don't like that don't want to have the belief and the negation of that belief in our minds at the same time, because it also makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, right? From an evolutionary context, because if you're out there and like you see the bear and you're like, or the buffalo, and you're like, should I kill the buffalo or should I not kill the buffalo? And you're like, I should kill the buffalo and I should not kill the buffalo. Then you're just gonna like be like kind of like frozen in analysis paralysis, and you're just gonna sit around, and either like the buffalo's gonna just charge over you and kill you, or like you're not gonna get your meal, and like your family, you're gonna starve to death, or your family will starve to death, right? So it even makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint why it would be selected for over the course of evolutionary time to have like one solidified belief in your mind, as opposed to two competing beliefs that are there for a while. So the idea in philosophy is that when you have X and not X, you basically analyze the ideas, right? You analyze, well, okay, which is the superior belief to hold? And let's say you currently held X, but then you realize, what? It makes more sense to hold not X. Like not X will bring more abundance into my life. It is in more congruence with the other beliefs that I hold, and it just improves my overall quality of life and helps my relationships with people. Then you're going to hold not X, right? And so then you would supplant X with not X, right? And that's just the way that goes, and that's what we do as human beings. We're all trying our best, and this is another important thing to remember. Everyone here, we're all just human beings, and we're trying our best just to survive and just to make it. Life is not easy. Life is rough. Life is so tough. And I could put on a smile and pretend like life is just peachy keen. It's all all roses and whatnot. But it's not the case. It's not the case. Life is, I mean, the Buddha said life is suffering, right? And there's a lot of people that will hold views similar to that, right? Think about how much suffering occurs. I mean, in Christian theology, you have the problem of evil, right? I mean, if you have a God, I was actually talking with my mother today, and I was explaining the problem of evil in philosophical terms. And I think that goes all the way back to Thomas Aquinas. Um, uh, big shout out to Thomas Aquinas, a smooth Christian theologian back in the day, Middle Ages, I believe. But anyways, the problem of evil is basically saying, all right, so in Christian theology, you have this God who is all powerful. So the God is omnipotent, right? The God is all loving, and the God is omniscient, right? He knows everything, right? And omnipresent, and it has all these other divine attributes, right? So if you have and that God cares, maximally about, his or her creation. I guess I don't know what you'd say nowadays in Christian theology, like his or her, what pronoun you'd use, but whatever. You want to choose either pronoun, right? Whatever fits better for you. And so that God, in that God's creation, you would think that God would want to be like taking care of its creation, right, and make sure that the creation feels that same love and kindness and is protected, right? But then you have the problem of evil, which is like, well, wait a minute, but what about all the horrific things that happen? What about Auschwitz, right? What about the Holocaust? What about the Holocaust? I mean, how do you justify that? How do you justify all those evils and atrocities, and not just Auschwitz, and the Holocaust, not just those things, but when a small when a baby gets murdered or something like that, right? It's like, how do you justify that according to the tenets of your religion, right? Of your Christian theology. And it's been a really interesting topic for a long time, and there have been many Christian theologians that have come up with great philosophical arguments to try to maintain their footing and support their stance. And then there have been great objections by philosophers over the years, and by other Christian theologians and other people from various religions and whatnot. And so it's just like you have this great back and forth, trying to figure out this problem of evil and how we can resolve it. Unfortunately, no one's ever come up with a clear cut way to sift through it and come up with a knockdown cogent argument, right? No one's been able to do it yet, but that absolutely doesn't mean that we won't be able to sometime in the future. It just means right now we haven't been able to come up with that good argument yet. One way around it, one move a lot of people say, you'll hear people say things like this. Well, but we just don't. What do we know? We're just human beings. God knows everything. We don't know enough to know that thing. And funny enough, it's such a simple argument, but I find that kind of compelling at times. The more I think about it, especially going along with what I said earlier, about that we only take in a very small subset of the totality of information out there. We bring it in through our five senses, process it, and then extrapolate and form our version of reality. So yeah, I mean it does seem to make sense. And by the way, this is all just from the Christian Judeo-Christian viewpoint, right? The problem of evil under that umbrella, right? I'm not talking about the problem of evil as it would relate to other religions and philosophies or anything like that. I'm just talking about the main one that's plagued Western civilization for the last since Christianity was born, actually. JT, you say some say love is frivolous, but for you, in every relationship you have, family, friends, and even some strangers, love truly is your starting point. My truth is rainbows and unicorns. Make people throw up fairy dust and kill them with love. But you are the dark goddess as well. So, wow. All right, hold on a second. We did that poll though. We did that poll. Did everyone say you were the dark goddess, or everyone say you were not the dark goddess? We did the poll for you and Sunrise Reads, right? Because we were trying to figure out which one of you, if either, was the dark goddess yesterday. And I don't know. I thought the poll said you were not the dark goddess. But oh no, or maybe oh no, it did. It said you were the dark goddess. You had five. I think you had 5 or 6 votes saying that you were the dark goddess. Some people were like, I don't know what the hell that means. And then like there were like one person said no. So I guess you got to be yeah. I guess you got to be the channel dark goddess. I'll qualify that as the channel dark goddess. So you don't have to like tattoo it on your forehead and walk around for the rest of your life with dark goddess inscribed on your forehead. Um, yeah, that would be kind of weird, by the way, if you did that. At least my perception, and then to some people, right? If you tattoo the words "dark goddess" on your forehead, that would be like perfectly normal, and they'd be like, hey, that this person is like, on my level, right? The dark, yeah, yes, you are the dark giddies of light. Oh, I like the dark giddies. What is that? The dark giddies of light. That's a good one. I think you should be called the channel's dark giddies. But hold on, the dark goddess of light. There's just something that's screaming dualism in that. I like it. I like that. The dark goddess of light. You suck at typing. Yeah, it's all right. We all do. Actually, that's not the case. See, look at this. I'm saying things that aren't the case all the time, right? There's some people that are great at typing, right? I'm just like, oh, we all suck at typing. What I guess I should say and should be saying is there are times where I suck at typing too. Contrast is beauty. Yeah, and this kind of circles back to aesthetics, what we were talking about earlier, and I think you bring up a really good point, and that's why I like David Lynch movies so much. David Lynch is a master of contrast, and one of his films, Blue Velvet, the opening scene, it's like you have this like picturesque, beautiful logging town in, I believe it's like in Washington State in the USA, right? And it's just this beautiful town, and there's like pleasant music going on, and everyone's smiling and having a good time, and the sun's out, and it's just the most scenic, picturesque, beautiful landscape that you're ever gonna find, right? And there's a guy outside, and he's watering his lawn, and everything's just great, and his dogs out there in the yard with him, and it's this beautiful scene, and you have such like positive feelings from emanating from what the director David Lynch was trying to do, and trying to get that positive environment created, right? And then all of a sudden the guy's watering the lawn, and he just starts having a fucking heart attack, and it's crazy, like the guy's like having a heart attack while and then he falls to the ground, and like immediately like the whole scene changes, and everything's different, and like and then the camera just starts panning down through the grass into the dirt, and under the dirt, under the surface level of the dirt, you see all these like vile looking insects like fighting and like clawing at each other, and it's just really like it's a really menacing scene, right? And so yeah, the contrast between that picturesque, beautiful town that he showed, and then what's actually going on underneath the surface of that scene is just perfect. And that goes along again. With what we were talking about earlier. Some people put on that fakeness, right? Some people will put on fakeness and say everything's beautiful, and maybe they can even fake it with their external bodies, right? They can have these beautiful external bodies, that are in good physical shape, right? And they get their hair done perfectly, and they get all these, they get their manicures and pedicures, and they're able to buy beauty or whatever, right? But then if you go inside into their internal state, you find that they're very unsettled, and they're not feeling a lot of love and unconditional love for everyone else, and they feel they're having a rough day, they're having a rough time, right? So yeah, these are definitely things that we need to consider, and remember, and you never know, right? You never know what's going on with a person in a given day. And this is another reason I like to try to cut people slack every now and then. One second. Sorry about that. Another reason I like to cut people slack is because you never know what's going on with another person in a given day, right? I mean, there are times where someone could have just undergone a traumatic experience, And they're, and so when you go in or and you're interacting with them and they just are like, acting like an asshole or like very insensitive, it's, there's good justification for why they're acting that given way, right? And then also, but the main reason though is simply because they have that same love and oneness that you have within you. And so you want to share that love and oneness with them. And if you can do that, if you can share, I mean, that's just the most important thing in my metaphysics. Sharing that love and oneness with other people, and doing that. Most people can't. Most people get caught up in ego level desires and ego level notions. Of like of thinking about the past, thinking about all the things that we should and shouldn't have done, and thinking about the future, thinking about all the planning and all the things that we have to do tomorrow and the next day, and we're going down lists. We have our whole lives just turn into endless lists of things to do. And that's crazy. It's crazy to think that our lives can turn into this. It's like, is that even a life anymore? Is that even an existence when all you're doing is just going from one thing to the next and in an endless, list of things, trying to check things off of some crazy master list? I mean, what is that? And this is actually a thought that's given me a pretty tremendous amount of conflict, in my life. Just thinking about like these lists about things that are required and that we need to get done, and just trying to accomplish all these things. And it's like at some point you got to take a step back from the list, and you got to say, what's truly important here. What is important? Is it important that I get all these things on this list completed, or is my own internal peace and well-being more important? And that's where balance comes into play. That's my Libra side talking, right? Balance. We gotta try to keep things balanced. Yeah, but some people like to live by the list approach. When I was younger, I had an interesting move. When I didn't have as many responsibilities, I would have a list of every possible thing that I could think of that needed to be done. Like every possible thing, like anything that ever came into mind, no matter how small, I would always like try to like put it on that list. And I only allowed myself to even feel good and to feel joy and happiness once my entire list was completely cleaned off. And when I was in college as an undergrad, I had a really interesting system of doing things. I would have my list of things to do, and I would have my syllabi from all my different classes, and I would basically lock myself in my dorm and just do nothing but study and get all my assignments done 2 weeks in advance for every single class. So I would be perfectly studied for every test, for every quiz. I would have all my assignments done 2 weeks ahead of time. And then once I got every single thing, all my assignments done, and every single thing else done in my world that needed to be done, my list was completely clean. Then I would just go off to friends' houses and just like hang out and just party my ass off like hardcore for like days. Like just I'd go off and like just like drink, and party and just do all sorts of crazy shit, and then just show up to class, and like I'd be ready to go, and like take the I'd show up just when I needed to take the tests and quizzes or turn something in, and then I'd be out of there, and then I'd be out. But since I would always do it for 2 weeks ahead, I'd be fine. And then once 2 weeks caught up to me, I would just go back into my cloistered dorm room and just get 2 weeks ahead again. And and that was my way of doing things. And it works well if you live in a situation where you don't have like pretty much an endless list of things to do. When you get older, you can't do that, right? You can't just say, oh, I'm gonna knock every single thing off my list. Like I have like all these things to do, and I'm just gonna get every single thing done, because it would literally take you forever, because we have a lot more responsibilities. We have a lot more things we have to do. And also, I'm a perfectionist, so it would be an endless thing, because I would be like literally straightening every single thing. There are times where I front the food in my fridge. Like, and those of you who've done like stocking and stuff at like when warehouses and stuff, you know what I'm talking about, like. Just like not in warehouses, but in like stores, just like fronting everything like up on the shelves. Like I'll literally front the items in my own fridge, just because it's like it looks more orderly. It's like everything's more in order. I know, like I could open my fridge right now and I with my eyes closed, and I could reach in and I would always grab exactly, whatever I wanted, without even knowing, without my eyes. I wouldn't need them because I know where everything's situated. I know where everything's located. I know exactly where my milk is. I know where my almond milk. I know where my fresh squeezed orange juice is. By the way, I'm huge into fresh squeezed orange juice, and I always have a gallon of it in the fridge at any given time. Like that's like one of my things I need in the mornings. Um, I don't know, but that's just kind of how it is. Let's see, JT, you say in the past few years you only set goals a day at a time, sometimes a minute at a time. Allow yourself the moment. Took so long to get here. Worth the fight to remain here. Yeah, right. And that's really how we got to do it. I mean, that's so important. That seems like the healthiest way of existing, right? If you set goals one day at a time, if you don't think too far, ahead and trying to plan everything, with these rigid, dogmatic ways of doing things, then you're going to have a higher overall quality of life because you'll get certain things accomplished, and then you'll be able to have that stuff accomplished, and you won't feel like you're always needing to get to that next thing and get that thing done. It's like that causes stress and whatnot. JT Farms, you say, dude, you'd freak out at my organizational skills. Your cupboards are a disaster. Really? Your cupboards are a disaster. Well, that's interesting. Because my cupboards are not a disaster. In fact, my ex and my best friend, Danny John, who's on here, uh, when we started dating, I went over to her kitchen, and I was just like, hell no. We're not gonna have this. We're not gonna have, this disorganized mess of in the cupboards. And I took every single motherfucking item out of all of her cabinets with her consent, of course. I'm not gonna be like too pushy. With her consent, I took every single item out of her cupboards, cleaned every single item perfectly, threw away all the expired food and all the stuff that's garbage and stuff that she was never going to eat and all the unhealthy crap that she gave me permission to throw away, and then threw away all the Tupperwares that were like garbage and that didn't have lids and that were just not good anymore, and basically consolidated it all to this most beautiful, efficient system. I spent an entire day doing this while she was at work, actually. And then after that, she had the most organized system of cupboards and cabinets. It was incredible. You'd open up a cupboard and it would just be shining radiant gold light like at you. It'd be like one of those aha moments. You'd be like looking at this radiant light of organization. It was so beautiful, and you could just everything was in perfect reach. The bigger items were behind the smaller items, and you could see everything perfectly, and everything was stacked in the most beautiful stacks, and it was wonderful. And you know what? She was incredible because she kept the system the same. I've done this with other friends too. Like when people's lives, for some reason, I hate messes. I can't stand disorganized messes. And this is actually something that's been a theme in my life. When I see a mess, when I see something disorganized, I feel the need to clean it up. So I'd go over to friends' houses back in the day, and I'd literally fucking do their dishes. I'd be like, dude, you have your whole sink filled with dishes. The water is like just floating up, and do you even have dish soap? Like, what's going on here? And I would literally do their dishes, and I'd clean their entire kitchen area. I love having a spotless kitchen. That's something that is really important to me. So I'd clean their kitchen, I'd make everything look perfect, and then I'd go back over to their place a week later, and it would just be this disheveled mess again, And it felt so defeating, But at the same time, I helped them out in the short term. But at the end of the day, if they're not going to maintain the ordered system, then it's pointless. But with Danny John, and I give her credit, I give her the utmost props on this, she maintained the level of order that I created. So I was able to create all that order and beautiful looking cabinets, and I helped her get rid of all this stuff she didn't need, all this extraneous stuff, all these extra Tupperwares and plates and dishes and whatnot. And she was able to maintain it. And that's cool. That to me meant a lot. It's funny how the little things can mean a lot, but the fact that she actually was able to maintain that level of order was a thing of beauty to me, and it made my heart happy. Okay, where are we at? Hey, relax. How's it going? How's it going, friend? Good to see you. I'm always happy. I'm always happy when you show up. You said it sounds terrifying. The JT Farms is a cover disaster. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I That would be terrifying for me. Like I need those clean cupboards. I like that. Let's see what we got. Relect, you're doing good today. All right, great. I'm glad you're doing well. You deserve to be feeling well. We all deserve to be feeling well. We're human beings. We got to spread our love to one another, right? JT Farms, organized chaos is more your style. You know where everything is, even if no one else does. Okay, absolutely, and that's a legitimate argument. And I should have mentioned that. There we go with I should have, right? I don't even know. I don't even know if I should have or shouldn't have, right? That's the philosopher's creed. We don't know. We don't know anything, right? But yeah, organized chaos. Like my buddy, one of my good friends, Mark, is the same way, right? He knows where everything is, but he doesn't. It's not in a very aesthetically pleasing setup, right? I find that if I live that system does not work for me. Organized chaos does not work for me. If my cupboards if I have bigger things of food in front of like smaller things of food that such that they're blocking their vision, I am literally less likely to reach behind the bigger box of cereal to grab whatever's food is behind there that I want to eat. I need to actually I want to actually see everything in front of in my eyes, see it in my through these eyes, through my conscious eyes, and actually just see everything laid out there. JT Farms, you said your style irks Mark to no end. He is so OCD. I'm OCD too a little bit. I've had to get over it over the years. I mean, there was a time where I was like, I was washing my hands a lot. It was pretty ridiculous. But I've definitely gotten a lot better in my ways. And a lot of it's just by kind of like allowing things to just not be as perfect and clean. Like there was a time in my life where every single corner of the kitchen floor, or like any floor in my wherever I was living had to be perfectly clean, such that you could stick your finger there, and if you tried to like pull out a cat hair or dust or anything, you would have nothing. You would have nothing that would come out on your finger. It would be that clean. It would be that pristine, right? But it's not like that anymore for me because I realize it's just too much of an effort, just to be down on your hands and knees like scrubbing every single day, whether it's the floor or all the floors in your place, or whether it's the vacuuming with the extensions. I mean, because it's one thing to vacuum, but taking out the extensions and like going behind the couches and then actually like moving the couches. I mean, I got some heavy couches. I got some heavy leather couches in my living room, and it's like I don't want to be moving those couches all day, trying to clean under there and like moving them around constantly. So yeah, I kind of lowered my expectations of myself of what I need to do, and then I just kind of got used to it, and I'm okay with it now. Let's see, where are we at here in chat? Roulette, you say you know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, both Agni and JT. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. It's like a lot of times with couples, you'll get one person who's just totally one way and OCD and wants things organized, and then the other person likes the disorganized chaos, but it's organized in their minds, and as long as it works for you, there's plenty of there's more than one way to skin a fish, right? You can there's plenty of ways to do any given thing, and some way a lot of times there's two ways are equal, right? There's no one way is not vastly superior than the other way. Usually there's two ways that are pretty similar, to live, and it's just whatever you feel is better for you, whatever you feel is most comfortable for you. Relect, you say, hope you're well today, Agni. What's going on with you and your friend's health issues? Yeah, that's seriously a bummer. That was something that's I saw her last Wednesday. Those of you who don't know, one of my friends who I hadn't seen in a long time, like 7 or 8 years, developed a brain tumor and got this brain tumor removed, and it was supposed to be she was supposed to be fine, But then when she got her removed, there were complications. That's like always what the doctors like to use the word complications, right, during surgery. And now she's going to be paralyzed the rest of her life, for the most part. She can move her right side of her body a little bit, and she can talk at least, but she's paralyzed, and it's crazy, right? For someone young and like healthy, just to all of a sudden be paralyzed. So yeah, this I visited her Wednesday, and I underestimated how much of a significant effect that would have on my emotional well-being. I was just sitting there thinking, oh, well, I can just do more meditation and do more yoga, and I'll be able to process it and work through it, and I'll be okay. I'm a strong dude. I can do this. I can handle this. But oh God, I came home and I was shocked. It was like shell shock. It was like PTSD shock. Seeing my friend just, who should be healthy and just out moving around, and not to mention, she's one of the kindest, loving people in the world. Her job literally was like a pro bono counselor. She worked for basically nothing and would just, was a licensed counselor and would help poor people who didn't have any money. And now she can't even move. Like where's the justice in that? Where's the fairness in that? And so it affected me on many levels. I came back. I was a complete mess Wednesday night. I was just crying. I was feeling like garbage. Thursday, same thing. And then I think Friday I was garbage, and then Friday night I had worked through it and processed it enough to like come to some kind of resolution. I think the stream on Friday night really helped a lot, actually. Once I finally did the stream, I felt more at peace and more in tune with my own nature, with my love, right? With how I am at the deepest level, at the deepest essence. But that's really nice of you. Thank you. Thank you for thinking of me, Roulette. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's crazy when situations like that happen. When someone you love or someone you care about is just like has these unfortunate, horrific things happen. But yeah, we work through it, and that's what we have to do. We have to try to work through these trying times, because if we don't, I know a lot of people. I know this actually leads to a good story, right? All right, so here's the parable of the day. I don't even know why I used the word parable there, but all right, here's a story. I was dating this girl, right? This was in 2000 and I would say 11-ish, 2011-ish. I'm dating this girl. I'm in her bedroom. We're hanging out, right? We're hanging out. We're just talking. Everything's casual. Her cat jumps up on the bed, right? And we're not even on the bed. Like I'm sitting in a chair. She's sitting in this other chair. We're just facing each other talking. And the cat jumps up on the bed, and then you hear the sound. Now, those of you who have had cats, you know the sound. The sound a cat makes when the cat starts throwing up. It's like the weirdest sound. It's like, it's like a weird, like, I don't even know how to describe it. I can't do it well. It's just like a weird noise. It's like, and you know what's coming, right? So the cat does this and then just fucking vomits all over her bed, right? And it was so disgusting, right? It's like, dude, not only did the cat just vomit it, but it vomited on your bed. It's like, okay, but it's just one of those things that happens, right? If you have kids, if you have pets, they throw up. So when your kid throws up, what do? You clean it up. Same thing with your animal, right? So she goes off into her closet right after the cat throws up. She goes off into her closet, pulls out a clean fucking blanket from her closet, and just takes it and lays it over the cat vomit. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? This is your bed. This is where you sleep at night. And she's like, yeah, I'll clean it up later. There's a mound of cat vomit on your fucking bed, the place where you sleep, and you're taking a clean blanket. You're seriously gonna take a clean blanket out of your closet and just lay it over it and just like not even allow it to and just like let it seep down into your bed, like through like the mattress pad and all that shit. and like just be like, oh, I'll take care of that later. But that's a great metaphor for life. That's what some people do. They sweep their messes under the carpet. They don't deal with them, right? They don't deal with them right away, or they procrastinate and they put them off. I mean, that's just such a crazy story that I like sharing it because it's fucking hilarious. I mean, I've never. By the way, I broke up with her that night. That was it. That was literally it. Like I have boundaries that I set for cleanliness, and if your cat, if you're dating me, if you are dating me and your cat throws up on your bed, and you throw a clean blanket over there and say you're just going to clean it up later, like you will not be dating me anymore. I will. That's like one way for me to break up with you immediately. But I will say this though, it makes for a great story, right? It makes for an amazing story. Everyone loves that story when I tell it, because it's just like wow, like what the fuck is going on in her head to think that, right? And she's also one of the girls that I've dated where I cleaned her kitchen perfectly, made it spotless, and then did all her dishes and everything, and cleaned the countertops, and then a week later everything was just filthy again. So like there was no working with her. She couldn't, she didn't have the ability to keep things in order and to keep things clean. And I'm big into cleanliness, so that's just how it goes. JT Farms, you say sometimes a good meditation can really allow for deep introspection and lead us to find a small slice of peace. Absolute, even if only for a moment. And yeah, and that is so true. That is such a beautiful way to put it, even if only for a moment. Because a major issue that people, okay, I've been teaching meditation a long fucking time, right? I mean, I don't know, 15 years, maybe longer. Anyways, a lot of my students get frustrated. They come to me and they say, Agni, I can't clear my mind. I can never clear my mind. I can't find that perfect peace that you talk about. I can never keep it there for a long period of time. I can clear my mind for maybe a split second, but that's it. And then they get frustrated, right? They get super frustrated because they can't sit in that state of perfect, oneness, in that state of perfect clearness of mind for a long period of time. And I always tell them, don't be frustrated with that. That's the ego trying to get you frustrated. The ego is going to try to do anything in its power to pull you away from being present in the moment, right? Because the ego is scared shitless that you're going to be present in the moment. Grace Yoga was in here the other day. She's a phenomenal streamer here on Twitch in the fitness and health community. Definitely check out her stream if you ever get a chance. But she said something that was really, really insightful. And she said she asked if under my metaphysics the ego is like a parasite, and I didn't really know how to respond to it at the time, but I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I think that's actually the perfect example. That's a very apt example of what the ego is. The ego is basically like a parasite. It exists in consciousness, and what it tries to do is divide and separate you from everyone and everything, and to keep you focused on the past and to keep you focused on the future. It does not want you in the present moment, and more importantly, it doesn't want you to forgive yourself, to forgive others, and to forgive the situations that arise in the world. That's because that's the number one thing that will destroy the ego. That would completely wipe the ego off the face of this earth. If humanity just forgave itself, everyone else, and all situations that would happen, because then there'd be nothing to bind us to this dualistic framework, right? So the ego is constantly, it's like a distractory device, right? It constantly tries to keep us distracted by having us do all those things on the list and keeping us out of the present moment. But when we go into the present moment, even just for a split second, you have made a world of progress in meditation. And that's what I try to instill in my students. That the notion that if you can just clear your mind for half a second, just have it literally clear for half a second, you have made an infinite amount of progress.
And then from a half a second, maybe you'll be able to get to 3/4 of a second. And then maybe a full second one day, right? And then maybe 2 seconds. And it's like anything, it's like bodybuilding, right? I'm hanging out in the fitness and health community. I'm hanging out in bodybuilder streams half the day, these amazing streams of people who know so much about about working out and building up their bodies and getting mass, right? But you're not gonna go to the bench press and lift 500 pounds the first time you lay down right on the bench. You're not gonna, that's not reality, right? And it's the same thing with meditation. You're not going to just sit down in meditation and be in a state of perfect peace and oneness the first time you do that with no thoughts going through your mind. Our minds are chaotic messes, right? And most people haven't done a ton of self-reflection and introspection such that they can sort out, all the contradictory ideas and all the conflict and all the X's and not X's that are causing cognitive dissonance and psychological neuroses and whatnot. They haven't done that kind of mindfulness training. They haven't done that kind of work. So with meditation, it's like, and Western culture doesn't value meditation very much. Western culture still thinks, it depends where you're at. I shouldn't say Western culture because that's a very vague generalization. But I should qualify it by saying a lot of areas of Western culture, still don't value meditation and yoga and qigong and the internal energy arts. They view that all that kind of stuff as like, as woo-woo stuff, right? Like not actually legit stuff. But if you look at the actual scientific evidence that's been done by legitimate research facilities like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Oxford on meditation and on yoga and on these internal energy arts, they all show positive benefits that result from these activities, and so it's like we have science on our side now. How cool is that? That the people in the holistic community now can actually turn to science and be like, look, right there, we can even support what we're saying with scientific evidence backing us up as well. It's just another thing to give meditation more credibility. But yeah, like I was saying, you start out slow. You try to quiet your mind for just a split second, and if you can do that, if you can feel that love for a split second, you remember the truth. You remember who you truly are. You remember what you are, and then you can go off into the world, and sure, you're still going to be, more. You're going to get caught up in ego dynamics. You're going to get caught up in ego battles. No one's perfect, right? Here within the illusory dualistic framework, but you're gonna feel more peace in your life. You're going to have more joy in your life, more abundance. And the harder you work at it, the more effort you put into meditation, the more abundance you're going to have, and the better you're going to feel. And that's just how it works. That's the name of the game. Like anything, you put in the effort and you will see results. Same with bodybuilding, same with yoga, same with qigong. All right, what else do we got going on? I missed a lot of stuff going on in chat. Where are we at? Rilek, you support that move? Yeah. Those of you who weren't here, I was telling a story about an ex-girlfriend of mine whose cat threw up all over her bed, and she just took a clean blanket and threw it over the goddamn vomit, the cat vomit, and said she'll clean it up later. And I broke up with her immediately. I'm not going to tolerate that in my life. I have certain levels of cleanliness that I literally have to abide by. And like, I'm not going to be with someone who's going to allow cat vomit to seep down through her mattress pad into her actual mattress. That's just like that. I mean, the look on my face at that moment was probably priceless. It was just utter disgust and just disdain for even for everything, for all of existence. So yeah, I'm glad that I got someone here to back me up in that I needed to get rid of that one. That she wasn't the one for me, right? You've been there yourself, mate. Okay, yeah. Sometimes you're with someone who's just not clean, and it's tough. If you're someone who loves and values cleanliness, it's really tough to be with someone who's a complete slob, right? I know that's like a judgment, and to call someone a slob, and that's like me just being facetious and kind of playing around. But I should just basically say for someone who has different standards of the level of cleanliness that they should live by, right, or whatever. That's like me trying to be a little more tactful about it. All the people right now, are like saying, who are like, not, are saying slob, who is this guy? That's not politically correct or whatever. But yeah. All right. What else do we got going on here? JT Farms, you say, dude, Mark would have loved date. Well, yeah. Unfortunately, I can't date. I cannot date Mark. I am straight. That is something that's going on right now. I am currently single though. I am currently single. Those of you who have been following the channel since the beginning know this is kind of a new development. I've been in a relationship for over a year long, and with a wonderful person. We still are friends. We actually hung out this last Sunday. It was incredible. It was so good to see Danny John again. But we're still able to maintain our friendship, which is amazing, because usually when there's a breakup, it's hard to maintain friendships, right? When feelings are hurt. But I am currently on the market, so yeah, message me. All right. Where are we at here? Hey, Nanera's here. Hey, right on cue. Nanera comes in. That was ridiculous timing, Nanera. I was literally just talking. I was literally just saying I'm now single. So anyone, and I'm straight. So anyone who's out there, message me, and then you're just like, good evening. And okay, Sunrise. I gotta get back to Sunrise. I didn't even get to you yet. I am so sorry. Sunrise is my Sunrise. She is like such a positive force on Twitch. She's a fitness and health streamer here. She does, and not just fitness and health. She does some yoga, but she does variety streams. She does walks at the beach in beautiful Brazil. She does cooking streams. She does art streams. She does streams of all different types, right? And she's just a wonderful human being. Definitely check her out. Give her a follow. And she's just like such a nice, kind person. By the way, check out anyone who gets a chance. Go to my about page when you get a chance and check out the about section. I now have these green info panels on there that I put in today. She just volunteered to make them for me. Like what? Like, I mean, we're busy people. We're all busy people, and she's just like, you know what? Hey, I'll tell you what. I'll create some info panels for you. Like, what an awesome person, just out of nowhere, to be that nice. I mean. So definitely give her a follow, check her out. Thank you again, by the way, Sunrise. It was nice to get those info panels up today. Where are we at here? Missing stuff in chat. Be the light. Yeah, you gotta be the light. You have to be the light, right? If you are the light, and it's like. It's funny how Grace Yoga was actually just talking about something very similar the other day. She was talking about how Stuart Smalding's positive affirmations. We're always like, we'd always like joke about them. They were always like so corny and cheesy, right? He was basically this guy on SNL back in the day, this totally like, absurd dude who would just like stare at himself in the mirror and just be like, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Right, and he would just like say that over and over. Right, it was just, and it was always like this, like it was like in a mocking sense they were making it, but in truth, those are actually good things to fucking say. It's crazy. It's crazy the power of these positive affirmations. And yeah, people make jokes out of them and say they're cliche or whatnot, but there's a lot of truth in it. Hey, Nanera cheered. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Yeah, so check out the clip of Stuart Smalling, whatever the hell his name was. I don't remember. It was funny. He was on SNL back in the day. So where are we at here? Yeah, cat vomit. I know. It's totally disgusting. Totally. I'm not going to tell the story anymore. Those of you who are here for it, you've already heard it like maybe twice. But those of you who have not heard it, you can hit me up in Discord or DM me here, and I'll tell you the story of the cat vomit girl that I dated, and how I broke up with her immediately. All right. Let's see. JT, you say yeah, and Mark and you are married. So yeah, I mean exactly right. Mark's off the market, right? Mark is off the market. Tell Mark that I had at least some level of consideration of trying to marry him, but The fact that he's married, is just gonna. It's just that I draw the line at that. I'm not gonna be the one to end a marriage. I'm not gonna be that guy. I don't want to be that influence. Maybe he's probably my type in a lot of ways. I mean, he said he's big into video games. I'm big into video games, right? He's big into strategy. I'm all about strategy. He likes things clean. He sounds very much like me. I think the dude's even got a shaved head, right, and a goatee, right, or something. He's very much like me. But I'm not gonna end your marriage. I can give you that. I can give you that thing. I'm not. Nanera, it's so good to see you. Yeah, good evening to you as well. I hope your day is filled with abundance and love and light. Nanera is just one of the most positive people here in the fitness and health community. It's so funny. Like whenever a fellow streamer comes to my channel, I'm always like some of the adjectives I always use to describe them are like positive and like kind, because almost everyone in the fitness and health community is just such like a positive, loving, kind person. So I know I sound redundant, but it's just the fact of the matter. Hey, how's it going, our Requism, our Requism 123? It's so nice. Thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. So much appreciated. But yeah, Nanera is just awesome. She's witty. She's funny. And she's just a great person who's changing her life for the better. And I am so proud of anyone who is working to evolve themselves, working to change, who's taking steps to change their lives for the better. There's a lot of people that just give up. They're just like, you know what, fuck it. Like I'm just, like whatever's going on, whatever issue I have, I'm not gonna deal with it. It's like the cat vomit on the mattress, right? I'm just gonna throw a blanket over the cat vomit, right? I'm not gonna actually deal with it, right? And then it just gets worse and worse and worse, and you just feel, it's like a downward spiral. And it's like, I get the fact, right, that when you're feeling that way, whatever it is, mental health, emotional, physical health, it's when you're feeling that way, it's so hard to find the motivation to actually push forward. And it's usually well, hold on, let me reframe that. It's usually easy to find the motivation for a short duration of time. Hence the gym memberships, right? Like, what is the biggest month, for gym memberships? January, right? Beginning New Year's resolution. Everyone's New Year's resolution is always, I'm gonna get in good shape this new year. I'm gonna join the gym. So they buy their annual pass. They go for a few weeks in January, and then that's it. And they're like, this is too hard, whatever, right? They're done, right? And sometimes though, we're not at a place where we can work to improve ourselves. Sometimes we have to process things in our minds and work through some things, and the more in the existential realm, of our being, right? But then to come through it and to fight through it and then to persevere and to push through it and to then get to a place where you can improve yourself and you can bring more abundance and love and health and joy into your life. I mean, those are the people that I just admire and respect and love so much, because they're out there and they're showing other people that if they can do it, that other people can do it. It's like, what an awesome thing. What an awesome thing to share that with others. It's like, what a gift what a gift you're giving, what a gift that people who have those attributes are giving to the world. And that's amazing. Grace Yoga is similar. Grace Yoga is a similar story. She's come so far. It's amazing in her journey. And I mean, you might not know it, but I've actually come a little bit far in my journey, too. With me, it's been more mental health issues. That's always been something that I've struggled with. When I was a little kid, just tremendous amount of anxiety. I just had so much anxiety growing up, and everything. Like even things I wanted to do. Would just produce so much anxiety in me. I remember I was going to go to Six Flags Great America one day, like the following day, right? And I was like, it was like my favorite thing in the world was to go to Six Flags. I loved going to Six Flags Great America and riding on all those roller coasters. I was probably like 8 or 9 years old at the time. I was up all night, just basically in a panic state, just like freaking out. And not in a good way, in like a scared shitless way of like all the terrible things that could happen to me, if I went to Six Flags. Like, I'm an 8-year-old kid. I'm just trying to I just want to play soccer and football and basketball and baseball and enjoy my life. I don't want to be terrified of everything. I don't want to be living in a state of fear of that, like, of like even of things that I love, like going to Six Flags Great America. I mean, that's crazy, right? That's insane. That's just so like I've had to deal with mental health stuff my whole life, and I've made a lot of progress in a lot of areas. I mean, do I still have things I have to work through? Absolutely. That's why I devote myself to meditation. That's why I devote myself to yoga, to qigong, to working out every morning. That's why I structure my life in a way that is conducive to working through these issues. And if I can do it, with all the issues that I've had, then I feel like most people have at least a good shot. They at least have a good shot of working through whatever issues they have going on in their life. And we all have insecurities. We all have deep-seated fears and insecurities. And this cycles back to what we were talking about earlier, but it's good to express those. If you hold them in, if you hold in your deepest fears and insecurities, then it's going to cause it's just going to spiral. It's going to create more and more problems. It's going to be like a chain reaction of mental health issues and neuroses that you're going to develop, all from those foundational assumptions that you hold that are incorrect, or that are causing you mental health issues or whatnot. And if you hold that in, it's just going to make things worse. But if you let it out, if you express it, if you don't feel comfortable expressing it with like your your friends or whatever, then go to a counselor. I mean, and you have that confidentiality and all that. Go to someone who you can express it with, who you feel comfortable with, right? I'll just blurt out my shit to the whole world because I don't care. I'm not concerned about what other people's opinions of me. That's like my thing. So when I say something, you're going to get the truth. I mean, if I think you suck, I'm going to tell you suck, right? I'm just going to say flat out, you suck. If I think you're a shitty fucking streamer, I'm going to tell you, I think you're a shitty streamer. But if I think you're, if you've done something like, shitty to someone else, I'm going to call it out, But at the same time, if I think you've done something awesome, I'm going to tell you that too. So you're going to know when I say something, when I give you a compliment, when I say something positive about you, you're going to know it's genuine. You're going to know I mean it. So what has that done in my life since I've adopted this notion of radical, open, honest communication? It's made some relationships, very, very difficult, right? It's actually ended a couple relationships, because all of a sudden I went from being fake to being brutally honest to people and brutally truthful in just every single facet of my being. And so, like, some people couldn't handle it, right? They say you can't handle the truth. Some people couldn't handle the truth, right? But then again, it made some other relationships much stronger and brought me together with people who also express how they feel and express whatever's going on within them. And that's important. It's so important for people to be able to express themselves. All right, I'm falling behind in chat as always. Where are we at? Nanera blushing in Hyde's face. But I love you, Nanera. You're amazing. You're an inspiration to everyone. Sunrise, you say, too bad you don't like being objectified. I'm a dominant woman. Yeah, we went on. We actually had the survey yesterday. Is Agni an object? And because I was talking about how I was a child model and actor, and then I feel like an object. Like I feel like everyone just comes here because they want to see my pretty face. They don't come here for the meditation. They don't come here for the philosophy. They just think I'm an object, right? But the poll indicates that the chat does not think I'm an object. So that made me feel a lot better. I feel a lot more reassured about my personal well-being now, that the chat doesn't think I'm just a pretty face to look at. I'm not just the girl in the hot tub. I don't want to be the girl in the hot tub. I want to come to you with something meaningful to say. I want to come to you with something powerful, something inspirational. I want to give you hope. I want to give you love. I want to spread that love and joy and light in your lives, in your life. I don't want to just be the pretty face in the hot tub. But whether I mean, it's to each her own, or to each his own, right? I mean, maybe one day I'll do a hot tub stream. I'll tell you what, if I get a million followers, I'll be in the hot tub. Oh, by the way, speaking of followers, I think I'm at 199 now. I think I'm at 199. Let me check my. Well, the last one didn't register, but yeah, I think I'm at 199 like legitimately. So I'm close to 200, and everyone always says 200 is a big deal for streamers. Maybe some of you streamers can tell me why. Why is 200 a big deal? I don't know why 200 is kind of like a magic number, but everyone's always looking out for that 200 mark when you're starting out and when you're streaming, and I'm going to be getting there soon, hopefully. Yeah, I just need one more follow and I'm there. So that's pretty cool. All right, where are we at here? Where are we at in chat? Sunrise, you say I'm too sweet. Thank you. Well, thank you, and thank you for being for being you. Thank you for being you as you were created. You know, you're not putting on a facade. You're not putting on fakeness. You're an authentic person, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons why we get along so well, because we're both authentic. You're like the more like more. You seem like the more gentle version of me. You know, I'm like I tend to be more like more aggressive, and you're like but you said you're a dominant woman though, so I don't know. I don't know, like I don't know what's going on here right now. I'm getting mixed messages. Oh, your panels look great. You're glad you come. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, it was a total help. I am so fucking bad with graphic design. It's just terrible. My whole life I lived under the assumption that like like it was not going to be an important part of my existence to be able to create beautiful looking graphics. But like I was wrong, because now that I have this channel, it actually is. Oh, and by the way, here's an interesting, cool side note. Some of you will know the band Tool. All right, that's one of my favorite bands of all time. They're still around. They actually came out with their first album in forever, just like a few years ago. But they're an amazing, like they're spiritual, but they're like heavy. They're technically metal, but they're not metal. They're just like this no Tool. Yeah, don't mess with me on that one. And the lead singer is Maynard, is just this awesome, funny dude. He's also a comedian. He's in a couple other bands, Pucifer and can't I think of the other band now? Perfect Circle, right? Just totally awesome band, right? In the late '90s, I ran the second largest website in the world for that band, for the band Tool. That was like my thing, and and it was great. I had 6 million hits, 6 million unique viewers that came to that site. But you know what? I was under this notion of the internet should be pure. It should be free of ads. I am not going to do any advertising or anything, and so I kept it a totally free site. It was totally free. I never put in anything on that site, and I didn't make a dime off it until the very end, until I was done with the site, because I had entered college, and I was an undergrad, and it was no longer like basically feasible for me to do everything I was going to do and still work on the website. And there were a bunch of other websites for the band out there anyway, so I stopped doing it. But for a while, number 2, 6 million hits. That was a cool feeling. I was getting fan mail. I was just like, dude, I'm like this young, I'm like this teenager who's getting fan mail. People didn't even know what the fuck was going on. They thought I was the band half the time. Like it was crazy. people were pretty fucking weird back in the late '90s, but they were all people appreciated what I had to offer, And the cool thing about my site is that I had not just the content from the band, like lyrics, all the guitar and drum tabs and all that kind of stuff, tour dates, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't have just the data, but I also had a section where people could share their experiences with the band, and then like what they got to feel and experience when they got to see them in concert and got to see them live. And that was what I was most proud about at that site. And people, I just had this huge list of people, talking about like their experiences with the band, and that was always cool. All right, let's get back to chat here. I'm being loquacious again. Sunrise, anytime at your service. Wonderful. That's super nice. Super nice. All right. Nanera's got animated emote hearts. All right, now I'm starting to feel a little jealous. Whose are those? Are those yours? Show love one. All right, we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to check that out. I mean, the moving emotes are starting to draw. They're starting to get my attention. They're starting to get me moving. Actually, like I'm starting to think more about animated emotes now, and like maybe getting some animated emotes in my collection, right? Because it's kind of cool. It's kind of badass to see animated emotes, getting all over the screen. Nanera, you say self positivity is so critical. So many people are internally mean to the. So true. Absolutely. And you know what? I'm top. I'm top on that list. I mean, they're not as much anymore because I devote myself so much to meditation and self care and trying just to forgive myself and just forgive the world and forgive everything and all the situations and all the trauma I've had to experience in my life. But yeah, I've been incredibly mean to myself over the years, and it's crazy, right? It's crazy to be mean to ourselves, right? We need to be more positive. Hey, Imbalanced Physique is here, and you're hosting my stream. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Imbalance is an awesome streamer in the fitness and health community, and this dude is just a top-notch guy. He's always hosting my stream. He's always given mental health talks and being super authentic and genuine in his approach. Definitely check him out. Whenever you get the chance. We're talking right now about Nanera brought up a really good point about self positivity, about being kind to ourselves. Right? A lot of us are not kind to ourselves. We don't maybe we fucked up somewhere along the way, many years ago, and we ruminate on that fact. Or maybe we don't like an aspect of ourselves, whether it's a physical aspect or like a mental aspect or like an emotional aspect. Maybe we have some kind of character flaw, as the illusory dualistic framework would like to describe it. But regardless, we need to be positive to ourselves. I mean, if we don't have a positive understanding of ourselves, if we don't view ourselves in a positive light, it's just a recipe for disaster. We're gonna walk around the world with just feeling like angry and hostile. And that's a really tough thing. It's really tough. It's like, I want to just tell everyone, oh, all you have to do is just love yourself, right? Just love yourself. Allow that internal love to blossom, and there you go. But if you're someone like me who has had tons of trauma and tons of crazy issues that have arisen throughout your existence, it's just not that easy, right? And even if you haven't had as much as me, right? Even if you haven't had as much as me, it's still so hard to truly love yourself. And I'm not talking about just in the moment of the meditation, right? Or in the moment of the yoga pose where you're in that state of oneness, you're in that state of love. I'm talking about when you're in the illusory dualistic framework, when you're in the external world dealing with people and ego things arise. It's like it's so hard to keep a positive self-image, and then you'll have other people that might say nasty things, and that can bring us down. And depending on our level, whether or not we have thick skin, I mean it can ruin your day, right? Someone says a nasty comment, and all of a sudden it's like that our days are ruined. But at the other side of the coin, it's like, well, we're kind of allowing that to ruin our day, right? We're giving them power over us. But when we're in a weakened state, it's tougher to fight it off. So yeah, you always make really good points. In this chat and all over Twitch, you make great points. So thank you so much. Let's see, JT Farms, you say, yeah, you'll totally tell him. Yeah, I'm not gonna date him. I'm not gonna date your husband. I just don't want to. I don't want to break up your marriage. Like that's not the Agni James style. I'm not someone to break up a marriage. I'm someone that is gonna come on through and like try to promote love and kindness between people and heal bonds that have been broken. I want to bring people together. I'm not a divisive force. And that's one of the main messages of my streams, right? I'm always talking about that. Don't be a messenger of division. Don't listen to the ego where it wants to rip everyone apart and divide everyone and separate everyone. Be a unifying force. Where's unification? That's what we need. We need people to come together and accept one another and just try to exist. We're all just human beings at the end of the day. We're all just people that are just trying to survive and trying to get by, and life is hard and rough, And it's a little bit easier if you're just with some kind, compassionate people. If you got people that have your back, and then when you help them, you feel better. I feel better when I stream and when I'm able to help others through meditation and philosophy and whatnot. So, that's just that. If we can give back, to the world, we're doing something right. We're definitely doing something right. All right, where are we at here? Let's see. Sunrise, you say what you are sometimes, and that's what you are, kind and compassionate. Well, you always have such nice things to say. You really do. I'm just. You're just this like vessel of love and light. I don't even know. Sometimes I wonder if you're just like a bot, if you even exist. Because you're so nice. You're just like so nice. It's like maybe you're a machine or something, right? You're just like, and your purpose is like to just like brighten my day, to be my sunrise. All right. And there you said been pretty sick for a few days, but thankfully got a negative result on your COVID test. That is really, really good news that you don't have COVID. Yeah, COVID is no fucking joke. I'm not going to take any one political side on this, but I am going to say it's no joke. Like I had a friend that had it twice. He got it fucking twice. Imagine that. And I mean, he's still feeling effects. Like there's effects that last like well beyond after the time that you get it. I mean, COVID's no joke. So I'm really, really happy that you don't have it. And I hope you feel better though. When you're sick for a few days, it's like it just drains you, right? It drains your energy level, it drains your emotional well-being, your every level of your life is drained. Like, and that's the thing, like when someone's like, it's like I try to adopt the viewpoint that we should try to be positive and spread light and love into the world, right? But if we're sick internally, whether it's a physical illness or a mental illness or like some kind of emotional neurosis or whatnot, right? Whenever we have that going on inside, it's really difficult. It's so difficult to be positive and loving and kind, right? When you're like on the verge of like throwing up, when you have like a terrible sore throat and your nose is running, it's it's so tough to be kind to the people around you. You're just trying to like survive basically. But when we can be positive, that's when we got to do it. That's when we definitely got to do it. All right. Where are we at here? Oh, Nair, you deserve. Well, I'm kind because you deserve kindness. You're perfect. You're perfect in every way from the context of eternity, and I appreciate all the love and kindness that you give everyone. So whatever you put out into the world, hopefully it comes back to you, and you deserve it. Yeah, I know. One more follower till 200. It's pretty exciting, right? I know. I'm almost at that mark. But the thing is, at the end of the day, I don't really care about the marks as much. About the numbers as much. I was never a guy that. Well, actually, no. I take it back. When I was younger, I did. When I was young, I really cared about my trophies. Like I was an athlete, so I was always like big into like all my soccer trophies, my baseball trophies. All the different trophies I had from sports. I had this like big big like trophy case type thing in my room, and it was like it meant so much to me that I was like this like athlete and doing all these winning all these things, right? And it was like a big deal. And then I got older, and you know what I did? I literally took all my trophies except one. I took all of my trophies and just fucking threw them in the garbage. I said this is bullshit. Why do I want to keep all these trophies? What good are these doing for me now? Are these benefiting me in any way, shape, or form? This is stupid. Like, why do I even have these, right? I got rid of them all. Trophies and external awards like that. I mean, they may feel good, at the time where you get it. It might be nice to have it, but at the end of the day, they're worthless pieces of metal and plastic. Yeah, they're not. I mean, I'd rather have someone show me love and kindness than give me a trophy. I mean, what's more important, right? At the end of the day. Let's see. Where are we at here? A little down. Oh, and allergies will take a few days to settle down too. You got some allergies going on as well. Yeah, allergies are crazy. And it's funny. I never knew about. I was just gonna say I never knew about allergies, right? But that of course that's ridiculous. Everyone knows what allergies are. But like what I mean is, I never had allergies until later in life, you know. So like growing up, you know, I was like looking at my friends with allergies, and I was like, and they would be complaining about their allergies, and I was like, you guys are being, why are you guys being so weak? You know, just you know, man up, whatever, you know, or you know, toughen up, you know, like, you know, you can handle this, you can, you know, it's just allergies. And then of course, you know, karma comes around full circle, and then guess who gets a cat later in life, who's and then 2 years later is becomes allergic to cats, me. And that's like, you know, you can't do anything about that. I'm not gonna get rid of my cat, but I now have cat allergies. So like I now have the fun of having to deal with allergies, and I see what everyone's talking about. I feel your pain now. I get it. This chair needs to get a little more. It always feels like this chair is never straight enough. Maybe I'm not straight enough. That's kind of a weird thing to say, but it's kind of funny. Um, but yeah, this like I always feel like the chair is not lined up perfectly with like the wall. It kind of throws me off a little bit. I know like that's just like an OCD tendency coming up through me, you know. But it's just kind of the thing. But yeah, you know, so allergies are no joke, you know. They're like leg cramps, you know. When I was younger, you know, I mean, you know, I used to think, you know, leg cramps were what actually like no, were like kind of like a joke or whatever. Like a friend would get a cramp, I'd be like, ah ha ha, you know, because I never got cramps. And then like I started getting crazy leg cramps later in life, and all of a sudden I'm like, dude, this is serious shit. It's just like LeBron said during the playoffs a few years back. You know, during the playoffs he got sidelined. You know, with leg cramps. You know, at the end of one of the playoff games, and he said leg cramps are no joke. I agree with LeBron 100% on that. I think that's one of the most insightful things that he said. But it's true. It's true. Um, yeah, and that's weird. That kind of brings up empathy, right? Like how a lot of times we don't, until we experience something, until we actually experience what someone else is going through, we have no conception of how they might be feeling, right? It's so crazy, right? Like when a loved one is going through something, and going through something difficult, and we're like trying to understand what that must be like for that person, but we can't because it's like it's an experience we've never had, right? You know, and you can you know understand it a little bit, you know, from just trying to like piece together similar experiences that you've had in your life, right? But for the most part, these are experiences that you know, you just over time, you know, you come to understand a little bit better, you know, through their stories of how those experiences have affected their lives. But unless you actually have a very similar experience, you're never gonna feel that. You're never gonna feel what precisely what they felt. And also, you know, they have a different belief set too. So think about it. They have a different belief set on top of that. So the way they feel when a given trauma happens to them could be completely different than the way you feel. I mean, if you're a masochist and you know you have a certain experience, you know that could feel great for you. But then you know if you're not, and you know you have that same experience, that can be terrible for you, right? I mean that would be like, you know, it could be traumatic even to a certain extent. So it all depends, right, on the individual's belief set, the values that individual holds, and other things of the like. All right, I got to get back to chat. I'm falling behind again. Sunrise, you're on lurk while you listen to your homework, dear Agni and friends, but you'll pop in from time to time. Sunrise, so great to have you here. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the lurk. All right, and I like that. Has delved deep into the source of creation and is experiencing lurking bliss. Who would have written something so good? Who would have come up with something like that, right? It must have been this Agni James character, right? Uh, all right, that was kind of weird. Where are we at here? Relect, you say, cue the Jack Nicholson clip from a few good men. Yeah, right. Absolutely, absolutely. You can't handle the truth, right? You can't handle the truth. Most people can't handle it. If you really go to someone and you tell them the absolute truth, they're gonna be offended. They're gonna be like, "What the fuck? You really think that? You really think that?" But the truth is so important. It is so crucial to be able to express how you feel to people. All right, Sunrise, you have a clip here. I wanna play the clip that you got out for us. Pretty face to look at, you know. I'm not just the girl in the hot tub, you know. I don't want to be the girl in the hot tub. I want to come to you with something meaningful to say. I want to come to you with something you know, powerful, something inspirational. I want to give you hope. I want to give you love. I want to spread that love and joy and light in your lives. in your life. I don't want to just be the pretty face in the hot tub. But that's it. I don't want to just be the pretty face in the hot tub, right? Like, I mean, most of my life, that's just how it's always been. Everyone's just like, oh, who's this handsome man, that I want to spend time with, who's this handsome dude out there, like this guy's incredible, right? I'm just joking. I'm being like, by the way, those of you who don't know me, like, I should say something. My name's Agni James. I like to come out here and play around with everyone and have fun. But when it comes to like the important issues, I'm going to be dead serious, right? When it comes to things like internal love, peace, kindness to your fellow human beings, compassion, meditation, yoga. But when we're playing around here, prior to this, we gotta have fun, right? We gotta have some fun. So I'll joke around with it. That's my disclaimer. All right, Naneri said, "Woo, let's go! 50 affiliate, 100 benchmark." 200 benchmark, 500 benchmark, 1K. Yeah, those are like big. Those are big benchmarks, right? Those are big big. Those are huge, right? Like once you get those, I mean, people get excited, right? Those of you who aren't streamers on Twitch, like Nanera's got it down. Like you'll hear streamers talk about that all the time. The 50, 100, 200, 500, and 1K follower benchmark, right? Because it's I mean, it is kind of okay. It is kind of valid though. I mean, okay, it's nice to have followers, right? Because the more followers you have, the more people get exposed to what you're trying to offer. And what I'm offering is free guided meditation. What I'm offering is free philosophy talk because I have, I've studied philosophy. I went to grad school for philosophy. That's what I do. I'm a philosopher. I talk about chess. I talk about mental health issues. So I'm basically, I want to have more exposure such that I can reach more people. So the follower count is important in that sense. But other than that, to me, it just seems more like an empty thing. But all right. Oh, but here, yeah. Speaking of which, I just said that, and now I'm gonna play this other clip from Sunrise that's gonna contradict what I say, but take it facetiously. In your life, I don't want to just be the pretty face in the hot tub. Oh, we already did this one. We already did that one. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Sunrise reads, you say I seem like the gentle version of you. Whoa. Wow. I don't know if anyone's ever said I'm gentle before. Maybe this is all a farce. Maybe I'm just this. I'm super gentle. I mean, I am kind of gentle, I guess, in meditation, in a meditation sense, in a sense that I talk about absolute love and unconditional love and perfect peace and whatnot. But gentle is not usually the typical adjective to describe me. More abrasive is usually the more is what people say about me. But kind at the same time. I'm always the guy that's like, can be a little bit abrasive, but like will be there for you when it matters. If you have a team of 7 people helping you move, and you're already set and you're in good shape. I might not be there. I might not be that eighth person in the team, right? But if no one shows up to help you move, guess who's going to be there, right away on time and is going to, help you move everything by just me and you. I'm going to be that person. Okay, we have a vote going on right now. That's funny. Is Agni James gentle? All right, so chat, vote it up. Predict it up. I don't know how this is going to go, and it doesn't let me vote. I believe. Let me see if I can vote. I want to vote. I want to vote on this, but I don't think it allows me to vote. Let's see if I can vote. Nope, it doesn't let me. Streamers can't cast a prediction on their own channel. Streamers cannot cast a prediction. Uh-oh. So far it's coming up no. It's coming up no. That's kind of what I thought, right? I didn't think I was a gentle guy, but all right, it's changing. It's fluctuating. Everything's getting all crazy. We'll see what the poll says. I mean, the chat's going to rule the day at the end of the day, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm a gentle dude. Nara, you say once you hit 200, you tend to hit a higher average viewers, so then start pulling in more random people and building your own piece of the community. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And that's actually what I look at more than the follower count. Is the viewer count. How many average viewers I get. I kind of view like average viewers as the most salient factor, because then I can spread meditation to more people and I can teach more people what I've spent so much time learning about meditation and yoga and qigong and mental health awareness and things like that, right? These are all the important things. So in that sense, absolutely, follower count is crucial. The more exposure you get, the better, and that's just how it is on Twitch. I mean, well, for me at least, and for a lot of people, I mean, I'm sure there's some people that don't care about it at all, but that's just how it is. Hey, this channel thing is pretty cool. This poll, it's 160 versus 170. All right, this is a heated one. This is the closest poll we've ever had. I'm excited. I don't know. We'll see how this turns out. All right, where are we at here? Where are we at here? Oh yeah, join my Discord. I created a Discord last week. Everyone should join. It's a lot of fun. You can see me shoveling snow in boxers and barefoot and just doing fun stuff. You can read my poetry. I'm also a poet. And you can see me doing Bikram yoga in the 105-degree heat and all that kind of stuff. All right, Sunray, you said when those 6 million people find out where you were, their days, they're all meditate with us. Yeah, right. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be awesome. That would be so cool if I could have those, if I knew how to direct those 6 million hits that I got on my website to meditation, right? If I could take all those people and be like, hey, I want to teach you meditation, right? Like, it would have been amazing. I just didn't realize the power. No one knew about the power of the internet. I mean, we knew about the power of the internet, but we didn't know the extent of where it was going to be. In the late '90s, we didn't know how it was just going to take over every single facet of existence, and how we're just going to be basically strapped to a computer monitor all day, or just strapped to our phone all day, right? But yeah, that was cool when I ran that site. Let's see. You thought that was when they found out the wheel? Yeah, you can make those jokes. You can make those jokes, and that's fair. It's fair, and I'll joke around with it, right? But I will say this though: the late '90s were a badass time. That was actually my favorite years ever. Like, the late '90s were so fucking fun. Everyone was so laid back and just fucking into cool shit, and we just it was just a great time. People lived life and walked around with like smiles on their face, and like were just like happy and like full of life, and just there wasn't such crazy like political divisiveness to the extent that we have now. The late '90s were a killer time period. I mean, I don't think we use killer anymore, right? I saw, let's see, JT say, yo, the collective energy would be out of this world. Yeah, if I got those 6 million people to meditate, holy shit, right? Imagine teaching meditation to 6 million people. I mean, I would have to be on point. I would have to be on my game for that moment. Nary, you say, okay, my friends, meds are kicking in. You're getting really drowsy. Hope you have one. Well, I hope you have a wonderful night. So much so as well. Namaste. I hope you feel better. We'll send health and positive vibes your way, Nanera, because you're feeling under the weather, and we all care about you. So good night, Nanera. All right, where are we at? I think we're catching up. I think we are catching up. Roulette, the thickest skin can be pierced with a tickle. That is nice. I like that quote. Yeah, that's a good one. Beautiful. And that's true though, right? That's true, right? You'll see that, right? You'll see people who say they have really thick skin or whatever, but then well, yeah, a little tickle, all of a sudden, it can break down those barriers, right? We got a clip from Sunrise. Let's check it out. And I got to fix.
Let's see, JT Farms, you say, yeah, you'll totally tell him. Yeah, I'm not gonna date him. I'm not gonna date your husband. I just don't wanna break up your marriage. Like.
And you can, and this is like seriously something important to me. Like, I will not, like, all you girls out there, I'm not gonna date your husbands, and all you dudes out there, I'm not gonna date your wives, and whatever sexual orientation, I'm not gonna date your significant other. All right, that's where I draw a line in the sand there. I'm not the guy that breaks up the marriage. I don't want to be that guy. That's just not who I'm gonna be. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry because like I know a lot of people in chat are worried about me breaking up their marriage. You know, they're like, oh, what if this dude starts dating my partner? You know, this the person I'm with. You know, like what if you know? Because I mean, how could someone resist? How could someone resist him, right? So that I know that's what you're all thinking, right? I mean, what else would you be thinking? So yeah, you know, you gotta think about that, right? You gotta keep that in mind. I'm not gonna break up your marriage though. Don't worry about it. That's good content though. That makes for good content. All right, let's get back to seriousness. We got to get back to seriousness. Sunrise, you say, yes, your purpose is to try to brighten everyone's day, just like I remind you all that each one of us is the light. Yeah, we are the light. We are the light. We got to be that light. You know, we absolutely. Someone's got that awesome "Be the Light" emote that you see. You see flying off. I've been seeing moving around in the fitness and health community. I'm gonna have to check that one out at some point. Sunrise, you said you added to my Discord quotes page and put Rilek as author. Yeah, it's a great quote. Definitely. All right, Rilek. Oh, what a display of integrity! I also quote all gems I collect in my books. Nice. So do you read, Rilek? Do you read a lot? Do you read a lot? Because yeah, I've spent like a lot of my existence just basically sitting there reading books. A lot of philosophy, mostly nonfiction I've read in my life, but yeah, there's also other stuff I read too. We got another quote here. Let's check it out. It's by me, so it's got to be good, right?
These external awards like that. I mean, they may feel good, at the time where you get it. It might be nice to have it, but at the end of the day, they're worthless pieces of metal and plastic.
Yeah. That's what it is. The trophy case. The trophy case is they're just worthless pieces of metal and plastic. It's like you'll see the NBA stars. They're all in the whoever when they get the rings or whenever like the Super Bowl rings, right? You see that from the NFL. It's like they get the ring or the trophies. What am I talking about? Rings? I don't even know anymore. Like who gets rings and who gets trophies? I think you get both of them from all the major sports. But anyways, yeah, you see it. It's like a big status symbol, right? They're like so excited about it and so pumped up about it. But at the end of the day, it's just a hunk of matter. It's literally a hunk of matter. It's just a collection of particles arranged in a certain pattern that human beings have collectively decided to, and not all human beings, some human beings have collectively decided to view as significant, as important, right? But it's just a collection of particles. It's literally a collection of particles with some with some forces, that basically hold the particles together, hold them in place, right? And it's crazy, right? So you'll see people with these like crazy, trophy cases, and like they'll bring their friends over and they'll show off all their trophies. I had a friend that was big into ping pong, and that was like his thing. He to have this huge trophy case, and like he wanted to like every time you come over to his house, he'd be like, here, let me show you my trophies again, blah blah blah. Don't you think I'm great? Look at all these trophies I got. And it's like, dude, like I respect you and I'm your friend because I love you as a human being, not because of how good you're fucking at ping pong, man. Ping pong is like, I mean, how you could be the worst ping pong player in the world, and I would still love you, brother. That's what I'm trying to tell the guy, and he's trying to tell me like that his self-worth is tied into winning at ping pong tournaments. That's a huge mistake that is made a lot in competitive events. Those of you who don't know, I'm a competitive chess player. I literally teach chess for a living. That's my job. I'm a chess instructor. That game is just, and me are like, really intertwined. We have that where we just, that game is basically like how I perceive reality in a lot of ways, right? But so I play chess all the time. And one of the biggest mistakes that you'll see people make in chess or any other competitive endeavor is to tie their self-worth to the outcome of the game, to how well they play. So such that they think that if they play at a level that's below them, or if they get out, if someone plays better than them, if someone beats them in whatever activity they're playing, that they are not worth as much. I mean, that's literally like something that comes up all the time in competition, and that is dangerous as fuck to hold that view. Because if you hold that view, I mean, every time you lose at a game, you're gonna feel like a worthless piece of garbage. you're seriously gonna feel like that because you're gonna feel like I didn't, my worth is lower, And sure, when you win, you're gonna have like an ego boost and you're gonna feel like, great or whatever. But it's not a good way of existing to hold that view, to tie in your self worth to that. All right, I've been talking a while. I think Am I even catching up? Am I even catching up to anything here in chat? Sunrise, you say late 90s, end of Cold War, U.S. unilateral, universal power, redeem stretch. Yeah, let me stretch out a little bit. Oh, all right. Just stretch it out, stretch it out. Stretch out the hamstring so I don't cramp up here. I didn't do Bikram today. Didn't do any Bikram yoga classes. Breaking up relationships, that's not cool at all. Yeah. Okay. All right. We got another clip. We got another clip from Sunrise. Let's real quick check it out. Yeah, I don't want to break up. I don't want to break up marriages, right? Like that, and that's the main thing. That's like the main point of me coming out here and doing these guided meditations and talking philosophy is to try to like tell people that hey, you don't have to be worried. You don't have to be worried that I'm going to break up your marriage. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Like I mean, your significant other will be able to resist me, and I won't push it. I won't push it. All right, Sunrise, you say. You think it's Terror Time who has that emote? Oh, be the light. Yeah, that's a cool emote, and I think you might be right. It might be Terror Time because I've been seeing it all over the place, right? All right, all right. Sunrise, you're going to start class now. Pop in when it ends if you're still on. Awesome, cool. You read as much as focus and time allows. Yeah, yeah, and I'm the same way, right? If you don't have time, relax. Like how are you gonna read, right? I'm reading a really cool book right now called A History of the Devil. It's really neat. It just goes through all the different cultures and the different deities that they worshipped and whatnot, and where the devil actually arose from. And it turns out the first conception of the devil came from Iran, of all places. It was pretty neat, and it was thousands and thousands of years ago. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool book I'm reading right now. But yeah, like I'll just read it before I go to bed. I'll read sometimes just 2 pages even just to keep up with it. Reading's one of those things where if you don't do it, consistently, things can get you can get out of practice, right? Roulette team gets a trophy, players get the rings. Yeah, for the NBA. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know why I didn't remember that. Like that's kind of weird. Because I'm not about. I don't care about the trophies in the ring, right? I mean, in hockey you have the Stanley Cup. You have like, and that's like always a big deal. They move that around. And I don't know how it is in every sport. Is it always that way where everyone always gets a ring and then the team also gets a trophy, or maybe multiple trophies? All right, like you say, married to being a champion, if you will. You also discarded all your trophies. Yeah, you got rid of your trophies too. Yeah, we're on the same page about that. Like, what is a trophy, right? It's just some external validation that that you like succeeded in something. And a lot of times it's like garbage. It's like a participation trophy. It's like what the fuck is that? I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of participation trophies. I think it's. I mean, I think it's the notion's kind of nonsense. But at the same time, if it's going to boost a kid's self-esteem, maybe it's not nonsense. Maybe I'm full of shit, right? Maybe I don't know. So who knows? And that's the attitude we need. As I'm a philosopher, so that's the attitude that I want to come to you with. That I might not know, right? And if I ever am telling you and saying that you should do something that I know that you should be doing this, it's like obviously I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And if anyone else ever comes to you saying that, they don't know what they're talking about, right? Okay. Let's see. We'll let you say no. We get trophies for baseball and soccer. I think it's a basketball thing. Yeah. I think it might be. I think it might be more of a basketball thing, with the rings and all that. But I've been streaming for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and we have yet to do the meditation. So there are a lot of people that came here literally just for the meditation. I don't want to leave them hanging any longer. So we're gonna now tone down the energy. And come down to a place of stillness. In which we are going to meditate. You'll want to get in a nice, comfortable seated position. You can sit in lotus pose on the floor. You can sit cross-legged with your back against the wall. Or you can sit in a chair. You'll want to maintain good posture and then gently close your eyes and take a few deep breaths on your own. And I have a Buddhist chant that I play that has a chime that goes off every 2 seconds. And we can use that chime to help regulate our breath count. So take a few more deep breaths on your own, focusing on your breath. Inhale through your nose, gently raising your belly. Exhale through your mouth, gently lowering your belly. Breathe in through your nose, gently raising your abdomen. Breathe out through your mouth, gently lowering your abdomen. Stay focused on your breath. Inhale, gently raising your belly. Exhale, gently lowering your belly. Breathe in, gently raising your abdomen. Breathe out, gently lowering your abdomen. Be mindful of your breath count. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. The breath calms the body, and the body calms the mind. Be aware of your breath count.
nose, raising your belly. Exhale through your mouth, lowering your belly. Breathe in through your nose, raising your abdomen. Breathe out through your mouth, lowering your abdomen. Stay focused on your breath. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. The breath calms the body, and the body calms the mind. Be mindful of your breath. Visualize yourself sitting on top of a mountain, watching the clouds move beneath you. Two clouds merge into one, and one cloud divides into two. Those clouds are like your thoughts. Thoughts come into being, exist in consciousness, and then disappear. That is the nature of human thought. Inhale. Exhale, releasing all that is of no benefit. Breathe in. Breathe out, releasing all that does not serve you well. Your essence is love. The manifestation of love is light. Your purpose is to shine your light on others. And awaken the inner light within them.
will shine their light on all whom they encounter. Until all of humanity is lit once again. Inhale, gently raising your belly. Exhale, gently lowering your belly. Breathe in, gently raising your abdomen. Breathe out, gently lowering your abdomen. Stay focused on your breath. When thoughts arise in your mind, visualize them as clouds moving through the sky and disappearing over the horizon. And return your focus to your breath count. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Your essence is love. The manifestation of love is light. Your purpose is to shine your light on others. And awaken the inner light within them. And they will shine their light on all whom they encounter. Until the whole world is glowing radiantly once again. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Our foundational essence is not our thoughts. Our foundational essence is not our consciousness. Our foundational essence is not our first person perspective. Our foundational essence is not psychological continuity. Our foundational essence is love. And in meditation, we travel beneath the level of consciousness to that place of perfect love. It resides within our heart chakra. So travel there and feel the warmth that is given off by that love, and feel the light, which is a manifestation of that love. Feel the perfect peace that resides in your heart chakra. Feel the perfect oneness that exists in that monism. Feel the connectedness with all of humanity. And just sit gently, feeling that perfect bliss. Inhale. You are worthy of love and light. Exhale, for love and light is your foundational essence. Breathe in. You are one with all of creation. Breathe out. Your purpose is to spread that oneness to all others. Inhale. Travel down deep into that place of perfect peace. And exhale, reside there, for that is your eternal home. Focus on your breath. When thoughts arise in your mind, visualize them as clouds moving through the sky and disappearing over the horizon. Travel beneath the level of thought, beneath the level of consciousness, to the place inside of you that is pure love. That place of love exists in your heart chakra. Go there and feel the oneness and joy that resides in that location. For in that place of pure oneness, you remember your true essence, that essence being perfect and eternal love. Inhale. Exhale, releasing all that does not serve you well. Breathe in. Breathe out, releasing all ego that obscures your third eye sight. Your essence is love. When thoughts arise in your mind, visualize them as clouds, moving through the sky and disappearing over the horizon. And travel down deep beneath the level of consciousness to your heart chakra. Feel the perfect love that emanates from that region. Feel the oneness with all creation. Feel the kindness and warmth feel the presence of your eternal home. And when you're there, look for the center point of that love. Inhale, gently raising your belly. Exhale, gently lowering your belly. Breathe in, gently raising your abdomen. Breathe out, gently lowering your abdomen. Travel back down beneath the level of conscious awareness to that place of perfect love within you. Travel to that center point of that love. Explore the warmth and light surrounding that center. And when you're ready, go on through. In the center point, you remember who you truly are. At your center, you remember how you came to be. In your center point, you remember what you are. In your center point, you remember your function. Residing at the center point is the purest of love. You reside at the center point. Your identity is the purest love.
the center point, you exist eternally. In the center point, you remember your eternal divinity. At your center, you remember your eternal home. At your center, you remember your eternal perfection. In your center point, you remember your eternal immutability. In your center point, you remember that you are eternally one with all of creation. In that center point, no ego can ever enter. For in that center point, your divine nature shines brightly. And you are one with the source of all creation. Inhale. Exhale, releasing all that is of no benefit. Breathe in. Breathe out, releasing all ego that obscures your third eye vision. Inhale. Exhale, releasing all stress and tension from your body. Breathe in.
Breathe out, releasing all fear and worry. Take the deepest inhale of the day, filling your vessel with the purest of love and light. And the deepest exhale of the day, releasing all that is of no benefit. Gently open your eyes and return to the present moment, bringing with you the peace of this meditation throughout the remainder of the day. Namaste. Thank you so much for being here with me and sharing the sacred space. You came here to do the work of meditation such that you have more peace, love, joy, and abundance in your life. And with consistent practice, you will have those things. I'm truly honored and humbled to be your meditation guide and to discuss philosophy with you. Thank you so much. How was that? How was that for everyone? How was that meditation? I feel really good after that. I know I feel much better after that meditation. Oh, and thank you so much for following Dreams P fans. Dreams MP fans, actually. Thank you so much for the follow. I think my stats are wrong. I think that actually boosts me up to 200. I think OBS is glitching, but maybe not. But that's kind of cool that I did reach that milestone. And thank everyone in the community for being here and supporting me and doing these meditations. Right? Doing these meditations is so important for us. You know, we get so much out of them. We get so much more peace and love, and we come to remember what's truly important. An anonymous viewer just gifted a sub. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That is so kind of you. Thank you. Wow. Much appreciated. Yeah. The anonymous gifters. I'm always interested who these anonymous gifters are. Oh, wow. Another one. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. I'm truly grateful. That's super awesome of you. And that's really cool because Mum Furious just gifted a tier 1 sub, I think, a couple streams ago. So, you know, what goes around comes around. That's wonderful. This is great. This is wonderful. Thank you all so much. Yeah, I basically my purpose, my whole purpose is to come out here and onto Twitch and just in my interactions in the world to teach meditation and to help others feel more peace, love, and light in their lives. And if I can do that, and if I can teach others to be open and genuine and honest in their form of communication, then I'm doing what I'm here to do. I'm fulfilling my purpose. That's how I view it. And I'm just grateful for all the support and help that everyone's given for helping me build this channel, because it's really become a beautiful thing. And yeah, I'm not going to stop streaming anytime soon. I was on a 25-day in a row stream kick just recently. That ended on Saturday. But I streamed 25 days in a row prior to that. That's how serious I am about bringing love and light to this world. I want to do it no matter what. It's my top priority. I'm an analytic. Those of you who don't know me, I'm an analytic philosopher, and I love philosophy. I love the yogic philosophy, Eastern philosophy. We discuss philosophy typically prior to the streams, and then in the meditation we discuss philosophy and my metaphysics, and we discuss peace, and we discuss all sorts of things. And I love being able to bring love and light into your world. So thank you for participating. Okay, all right. I think we are I think we're ready. I think we're ready to move on. To move on. Wow, I feel like I'm high. I feel so much love in my being. Let's raid someone. Let's raid someone. All right, where are we at here? How do I do this? I always like forget how to operate technology when I'm all zenned out. It's this weird thing that happens with me. Who are we gonna raid? I don't know who we're gonna raid today. I don't know. I need suggestions from the chat. I need suggestions from the chat. Um, I don't know who we're gonna raid today. This is kind of interesting. This is kind of an interesting moment. Because let's see, Check Me Out is streaming, but I think she's streaming a rerun, and I don't like rating when people are streaming reruns. Let me double check. Let me double check on Check Me Out right now. Let's see. Unfortunately, yes, it is a rerun, and I have a policy that I don't like to raid reruns. Evolve Yourself TV is stream. Oh, I am the stream. I don't need to raid someone. You're saying, but I like to raid someone. I like to give back. Okay, well this is kind of cool. This is kind of neat. So I know who I could raid, unless someone has a suggestion of someone they want to a streamer they like, and it doesn't need to be a fitness and health streamer. It doesn't even need to be a holistic streamer. If the person is just like a kind, human being, like and maybe does art or does music or something of the sort, I would love to raid them. So, does anyone have any suggestions of a streamer of that sort? If so, we'll raid them. Otherwise, I have an idea. Uh, I'm a chess player. I'm a chess instructor. That's my job. That's how I pay the bills. And I also play competitively. That's kind of like my career, right? I'm in a lot of chess streams and chess communities. And there's a really cool community out there. It's a smaller chess community. They got 788 people right now, but they're good people. They're just really positive, loving, caring people, and they teach chess to the world. So if anyone has any interest in that, let's give them some love. I love these people. Let's give them my first raid ever. So yeah, when you go to their streams, just give them some love and support. And thank you all again so much for tuning in. I stream almost every day, so hopefully I'll see you soon. Namaste.